better, safer, more prosperous place. We are American Experiment North Dakota. Go to americanexperimentnd.org to learn more.
Hi, Trevor Ockery, owner of Buffalo River Sales. We are proud to announce our new location at 2801 Main Avenue in Fargo. To celebrate, we are offering up to $350 off the Hustler Raptor family of mowers, featuring all fabricated frames and decks with sizes from 42 to 60 inches and powered by Kawasaki V-twin motors. Along with our great pricing, we are offering 0% financing for up to 48 months on all Hustler turf equipment. Come check us out at our new location at 2801 Main Avenue in Fargo or online at buffaloriversales.com.
Looking to go green and save money? Holden Solar is now your certified Tesla installer for Powerwall, Solar Roof, and Tesla EV chargers. With a 30% federal tax credit, energy storage systems, and net metering, solar is now more affordable than ever. Make the switch today and start saving. Call 218-78-SOLAR for a free quote. That's 218-78-SOLAR. Holden Solar, your trusted partner in renewable energy.
Tharaldson Ethanol invites you to trade in your job for a career. Just west of Castleton sits one of the nation's largest ethanol facilities, a 170 million gallon per year ethanol plant. Come join a work family of dedicated team members helping North Dakota lead the energy revolution. Pay starting at $75,000 to $80,000 per year, plus benefits, bonuses, incentives, and more. If your job is just a job, trade it in for a career at Tharaldson Ethanol. Apply online right now at tharaldsonethanol.com.
When you need to make sure your company is offering the best employee benefits, there's no better place to call than High Road Partners. High Road Partners is an independent, local brokerage. That means they work with a variety of insurance companies to pick the best plans. They'll create a custom package that's just right for you, save time, money, and hassle, and go to highroadpartners.com. That's highroadpartners.com.
Summer's on now at your premier pontoon dealer, Ray Sport Marine. Pair them up with a Yamaha motor and you're good to go. The pontoon selection is huge with options to fit every budget. So hurry to Ray Sport and Marine, Moorhead, Perham, Bemidji at their new location 3 miles east on Highway 2. And now Ray Sport Marine is in Alexandria too, formerly Stubbs Marine. Get your best deal now when your passion is the water. Ray Sport and Marine. Shop now at raysmarine.com. raysmarine.com.
Take the wheel and take control of your auto insurance premium with a Drive for Less program from Nodak Insurance. When you drive safe, all roads lead to a lower cost on your auto insurance. Simply track your driving habits with your Nodak Insurance mobile app, and you can save up to 30% on your premium just by driving safe. Talk about driving a bargain. Download, drive, save. Get the app today from Nodak Insurance Company. Nodak Insurance Company, agents with answers.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
If you've got a pull-behind trailer, this is for you. Boat or ATV, flatbed or job trailer, Dakota Trailer Service can handle them all. Dakota Trailer Service does DOT inspections and can fix anything we find. Tires, brakes and bearings, lights and wiring, axle alignment or replacement. Whatever you need, call today to set up your inspection or repairs. Dakota Trailer Service, 532-2604. That's 532-2604.
Election 2024. 4 seats are up for grabs in a passion-filled Fargo School Board race. This is the Fargo School Board Pre-Debate Show, brought to you by Dakota Tire and Dakota Trailer Service on WDAY Radio and The Flag.
Hey everybody, I'm Scott Hennen. Steve Hallstrom and I, we're going to give you a little pregame before tonight's Fargo School Board race. We have 9 candidates. Of all the candidate debates we've done so far, I believe that is the high watermark for the amount of candidates that will be in the studio and participating in tonight's debate. It will go from 6 until 9 p.m. this evening. 6 until 8 p.m. And then Steve and I, after the debate, will kind of keep score and talk about the highlights and the lowlights, and most importantly, welcome your feedback as well. So encourage you to lean into tonight's debate and spend some time listening to the candidates. We're going to hear from all 9 of the candidates up for the Fargo School Board. The seats currently held by Nikkie, Gullickson, and Seth Holden, Jim Johnson, and Tracy Newman are what are up for grabs in this June 11th primary for the Fargo School Board. Nikkie, Gullickson, and Seth Holden are running for re-election. Jim Johnson and Tracy Newman are not. Then there are candidates Paul Moore, Jason Nelson, Kristen Nelson, Allie Olenberger, John Campbell, Ryan Dodd, and Dodd Morgan to round out the 9 candidates altogether. I want to give a shout out to our team, our news team. Tom Tucker and Ty Schonert will be part of tonight's debate. We got a great tech crew that are keeping things going. And Steve, it's been fun to really give our listeners a chance to really lean into these races and pay attention. I've been very proud of our coverage of the upcoming primary.
Good energy, good questions. It's gone great with these debates we've had, and I think the thing that I'm most proud of, Scotty, is that after these debates are done, you walk away and you feel like I do know more about these candidates, and I can see where they are aligned, kind of get their DNA, what they feel about things, what their values are, and I think you've learned a lot so far, and I'm excited. A lot of these people I don't know very well. I shouldn't say a lot. A few of these people I don't know very well. As you said, a couple of incumbents and some newcomers as well, and some people that are coming back for a second go of it. Allie Olenberger ran for this position a couple of years ago. She didn't win at that time, came back, now has been endorsed by the Fargo Teachers Union, the FEA. And so she's back for another go of it. So there's all kinds of interesting storylines here with this group, no doubt about that.
Yeah, that Fargo Education Association endorsement was pretty interesting, that it did not include any of the incumbents. Says to me that the teachers union is maybe wanting some change as well and not real happy. And I'm hearing that anecdotally from some of the candidates. Interviewed a number of them, asked them why they run and why they decided to run in this race. And they say some version of, well, in talking to teachers, they're just ready for some things to be different, and so I think that Fargo Education Association endorsement speaks volumes, and we'll get a chance to hear from not only those 4, but the others as well tonight, but it's going to be interesting.
Olenberger herself is a story because, as we talked about, she ran before, now is running again, but she was a part of a group that wanted to recall some of the Fargo School Board members, and I've always just thought that Fargo Education Association kind of protects its own. It kind of is an inner circle that, if you stray too far outside the boundaries, that doesn't show well. But the fact that she was endorsed as one of the candidates after being an open critic and trying to basically recall some members of the school board is not necessarily playing nice in the sandbox with some people that are could be colleagues, and yet that's what has happened now. And she's back in the ring and got that endorsement before, and so
I agree.
I was surprised to see that endorsement come to somebody who has been an outspoken critic of what has happened on that board.
That's what I mean. I think it tells you something about where the teachers are at right now as well. About maybe not like a lot of the folks that we talk to about these decisions that come up by the school board, things like probably most famously the state law that was passed by the last legislative session that said it is required that schools notify parents if there is a student that is wanting to identify as a different gender or has some issues related to gender, that you go to the parents. That was what the state legislature passed in the way of law. Governor Burgum signed it, and you had literally the Fargo School District say, no, we're not going to do that. And they still aren't. So issues like that you're hearing about and have been kind of front and center with the public. But I think, again, the teachers union picking 4 newcomers to fill 4 spots says a lot about maybe they want a little change as well.
And people that I think are willing to be a little bit of a bull in the china shop and shake up the establishment a little bit. That's kind of the common denominator you hear from those 4 is that we need changes. We need to do things differently. And it's not so much of the go along, get along conversations that we've had before. You had mentioned, Scott, that the events of last year where the legislature says what it says, Governor Burgum signs it, and then the board hears from Dr. Gandhi. And I was trying to remember, did the board vote on that? Did all those board members take a vote to say, yes, we're going to kind of line up with Dr. Gandhi on this, or do I not agree with that? I went back to the forum article that was written at that time, and it was a pretty complete article, and it does not say anything in there about an actual vote. So from that particular article, and I just don't remember the details of it offhand as well, but from that article, I'm led to believe there was not a vote among people on the school board. The superintendent said, we're going to align with federal law on this one, which
not federal law, federal rule.
Federal rule.
Yep.
Okay, that was his statement.
Yep.
Okay. But we're going to align with federal rule instead of state law in this thing. And the story that I read from the forum seemed to indicate that it was pretty unanimous consent of the board members. They may not have voted, but nobody seemed to raise a voice, and I think that would have been reported on in the story that was done there. The forum reporters generally do a very good job on their reporting, and they give you the details behind those things, and I didn't see any of that there. So I was wondering if we would have a legitimate question to bring to the group, especially those incumbents. Why did you vote the way you did? But I don't know that we have a vote technically on that subject, although we probably have an idea what the support level was.
Yeah, we talked to Kelly Armstrong, candidate for governor, about that a little bit, and he was the one that pointed out that the state law cannot be trumped by a federal rule. That legally they don't have much of a ground to stand on, and that's where this may end up. It may end up as being something that is litigated, but I think it's fair to say, as you laid out, that the school board supported the decision of Rupa Gandhi, who was the one that was very vocal about defying that law and wanting nothing to do with it, which again, I think is one of the reasons that people are paying more attention to what's happening on school boards these days. Because
I agree.
When you literally have something as black and white as a state law that directs one thing, and then a superintendent speaking for the school district and saying, no, we don't think so. We don't want parents to know. We literally want to keep things about kids in school from their parents. And that's the basis of that decision. I think that wakes a whole class of voters up to pay a little closer attention to what's going on in their Fargo School Board.
I am also interested tonight to hear, we can get caught up in social issues and things like you and I are talking about, but that we're not talking about the overwhelming majority of the affairs of the school board dealing with that. We are talking about the overwhelming majority of what the school board does is make sure that our kids are being taught well and that we're getting good academic performance. And I want to hear some questions and some answers tonight about aptitudes. Math is 40%. I think English is 44 or 45%. All of those numbers down from pre-pandemic levels and well under half. So if we've got 40% of our students grades 3 through 8 proficient in math, that's a problem. How are we going to fix that? So I hope we get some good conversation, too, about how are we teaching? How are we testing? How are students and teachers interacting to make sure that these kids understand and learn as good as they possibly can? We know that you're not going to have 95% proficient in things. That's not realistic. But when you're sitting at 40, in the low to mid 40s, we've got to be better than that. We can't stop asking questions about it. We can't stop pressing for answers. And I hope we hear some people today saying, doggone it, we've got to be better than this, and not just say, well, the tests are kind of weird and there's not a lot you can always do. I don't want to hear any of those things. I want to hear people, even if it's the incumbents, say, we've got to be better, and here are my ideas for us to get better.
I agree. That's an important one, no question about it. I mean, that's what they're there for, right? That's the blocking and tackling every day that you want from an education system. You want your outcomes to be better. You want your kids to be learning, and you want that to be shown out in the test scores. I would say another one, during the whole pandemic era, there became sort of this hostility from members of the school board and the citizens, the taxpayers, the parents, the people that were actually showing up saying, why are you doing this? Someone that's leaving the school board is Dr. Tracy Newman. And she famously said that, she as a doctor knew better than parents what was best for their kids during the pandemic. And there became
Did she really say that?
Yeah, a version of that. Yep. She said she was the pediatrician for all of Fargo school system. She's really very arrogant about her positions on that, just thinking that she knew better again than parents. But what came out of that was really a hostility towards people coming to the school board and sharing their opinion. And that was one of the reasons that whole recall effort started, because it just was, they were being shut out. Mm-hmm. I think some of that element still exists. I just decided one day that I was kind of curious as a property taxpayer in the Fargo School District, why it was that the high item, the top line item, the most property taxes that I pay, and most everybody within the sound of our audience in our listening area, is for schools. The lion's share of your property taxes is from schools. And there was an analysis done about how much it costs to educate students in West Fargo versus Fargo. And West Fargo had more students yet a lower per student rate. So I decided to go to the school board meeting and ask some questions. And I had just basic questions of, this is how much they pay, this is what you pay, can you help me? And literally, the school board said, you can ask all the questions you want, but we're not going to answer any of them. Mm-hmm. We don't have to answer any of them. And that was the first school board meeting I'd been to in some time, but I heard from a lot of people after that fact that that's
flat out wrong.
Well, it's not only wrong, it's just how they do it.
Flat out wrong.
And I think they have a Fargo City Commission problem as it pertains to taking input from the people who are paying the tab. They need a better system of getting input. And however they do that, the Fargo City Commission recently said, let's take an hour and do it, separate from the meeting, but give people a chance to have a say. I don't care how they do it, but they need to do it.
Yeah,
they really do.
You need to feel at least that you have some dignity when you go in there. And I think if I remember your story right, you said basically everybody just had their head down looking at their phones or whatever, and there was no eye contact and no response, and we don't have to. That's inexcusable.
Yeah, the superintendent.
It's inexcusable.
Superintendent literally was scrolling through his phone and computer.
If somebody came in there that saw life completely different than the way I did and raised a question that I thought was ludicrous, I would still expect that person to have someone do the decency of looking them in the eye and say, understand your question, here's the answer, the best answer we can give you, or give us some time and we'll get back to you. I don't care what your position is, what you're aligned with, what you're there for. Someone should look you in the eye and say, thank you for coming. I appreciate the question. If it's not a question that, is a clown question, right? And you're just asking questions like you did about how we're spending taxpayer money, to have somebody handle it that way is flat out wrong. And hopefully we hear some things like that tonight where people say, look, I've seen those things. I've heard stories like that too. If I'm on the school board, I promise you, everybody who comes, I will look you in the eye and I will give you an answer. You may not like it, but I'm going to give you an answer. That's only decent. I
think that's not too much to ask at all, and it's obviously very much needed. Another example is they have a system where if you show up at a meeting, before the meeting starts, you need to put your name on a list, and then they'll call on you. And I think they give you 3 minutes. I forget the timeline, but very short period of time. And again, no interaction, nothing, just, okay, next. But people, again, seems like it's almost, again, if there's 20 people in the audience that are citizens that are tax-paying and they have something to say, let them say it. What is this business of sign up beforehand and, go through all these steps? They clearly are doing everything in their power to limit input from the public, and that's just wrong. And so I agree. It's one of the things I want to hear tonight about how they would do that differently going forward. I think the other one, again, coming back to property taxes, is just what they spend. How much scrutiny is there on the budget of the Fargo public school system? Do they ever say, you know what? We've grown at 8, 10, 12, 14%. Why don't we cut that back? Why don't we go to cost of living for the next 3 years and live within our means here a little bit? And scrutinize line by line like businesses are doing right now at a time with inflation and everything costing more. There doesn't really seem to be any kind of even tiny amount of discussion about budgets. And one thing I will say critical of the public, there also is not a lot of participation in those budget meetings.
Yeah.
The turnout in these elections for school board and city commission, local races, is generally very, very small. Generally 20%, upwards of 30. Sometimes I think the high water mark since 1980 is 39%.
40, yeah.
But that means 6 and 10 on our best day that our eligible voters are not participating. So I think it's important not only to listen to these candidates today, find out who speaks for you, and follow up. Be at the meetings. Be part of this. This is part of what it takes
to part of it too.
Stay on this.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some conversation. I'd be surprised if we didn't have a question or two tonight as well about when you're talking about spending decisions, the decision to bring on 2 new cabinet level people, and 2 questions about that. First of all, if those job duties are under the superintendent and you're now bringing in 2 people, you've made that one position, which is a $200,000 annual position, into now a position that doesn't cost you $200,000. It's $400,000 or $450,000 or whatever the total is for those 3 people. What's the decision making process? I hope we hear a question about that. Like when what is your analysis of bringing 2 more people on, effectively more than doubling the cost of the superintendent's position, and how do we make those decisions? And then second of all, is it appropriate to have cabinet level staff that is completely remote, working fully from Houston, Texas, for example? If you're talking about the attendance taker, sure, they can be in Sioux Falls taking attendance or doing some reporting and that kind of thing. But people that are involved in having their finger on the pulse of the district and the kids and the teachers, do they feel like that's appropriate to have them be that far away and not require them to be here on a full-time basis? I hope we hear some questions about that tonight too.
I do too. And, to that point, when you talk about those 2 positions that were added, which were well paid, and as you mentioned, I guess a subset is the fact that they're not required to be actually in the office. And at least one of them was a previous colleague of Rupak Gandhi's before, and it was just
I believe both of them were, which I don't honestly think that that's the smoking gun here.
The smoking gun to me is this. The job positions in those 2 new hires were previously the responsibility of the superintendent.
Correct.
So that was his job.
Yes.
So somebody said, you know what? We need to get you, as you said, a significant amount of payroll to do part of your job.
Mm-hmm.
And again, at a time when we're looking at property taxes where they are, those are kind of the decisions that just make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I hope that one comes up tonight too.
701-271-1100, our phone number. If you would like to call in and let us know what you're hoping to hear tonight. Maybe there's a candidate that you are especially intrigued with, that you want to hear their story. We'd love to hear from you on that. And then Scott and I will be back at 8 o'clock as well to kind of recap what we heard, and we'll open up the phone lines again for you as well. You can listen to us on the radio. You can watch us on our web streams on WDAYRadioNow.com and AM1100theflag.com, as well as our social media Facebook pages. Will be in full play today with the video stream as well. Our video team is fantastic. It's like a well-run TV show, so you can watch it, listen to it, whatever works for you here tonight. Scott, I am interested in hearing from the incumbents that we have with us tonight, how they handle some of these questions and how they will address some of the things that have been brought up about spending and some of the gender identity issues and so forth, just to see if that we'll get more like, hey, I want to be very transparent about why I did what I did, said what I said, voted about how I voted. This is why I thought it was right. I don't mind those answers. I might not necessarily agree with them, but what I hope we don't get is some kind of no comment or just not dignifying the question. I hope we don't get that. I don't think that we will.
Well, it'll be interesting. I agree with you, though. I think incumbents have a special duty in an event like this to say, here's how I've done and what I've done and why I've done it that way. There's no question about it. I'm glad to see that we have 9 candidates for 4 spots.
That is great.
It is a sign that I think people are saying, you know what, this position matters. I'm going to pay attention to it. These 9 people that have put their names in, 7 of whom have not served before in that capacity, and I think just 1 that's been a candidate before, in Hallie Ullenberger. So I think it's a very good sign. You got a lot of homework to do as a voter, to not only on the incumbents but on the newcomers, really dig in a little bit and find out where they stand on these issues.
Facilities are going to be a big topic. I'm guessing that'll come up tonight as well. There have been some budget numbers thrown out that the district may need as much as $650,000 or $650 million for this next round of.
Isn't that staggering? You hear that number,
staggering
you just
number.
Buckle at the knees.
2/3 of $1 billion for a district that really is not growing a lot in terms of student growth. And so that's a big number. They are now talking about something more along the lines of 300 to 350. So maybe they throw out the 650 so the 350 doesn't sound so bad. But I am also interested to hear what questions come up about that tonight and how the candidates answer the question of what are going to be the principles that will guide you as you make decisions on how much is appropriate to spend on facilities. That's a lot of money at a time when everything else is costing a lot of money.
And again, at a time when property taxes are a pain point in North Dakota. Where we have a real debate going on about what we're paying for property taxes. And again, I repeat, the lion's share of your property taxes, if you look at your bill, is the school district. So you're talking about, obviously, that number continuing to grow every year.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a sizable number on new facilities. Can that be done differently?
Yeah.
Can there be, especially as you say, West Fargo's been wrestling with this because West Fargo is growing at quite a pace, whereas Fargo's school district is not. So, that's another reason to say, whoa, wait a minute. And hopefully we'll hear very clearly from all 9 candidates about that as well tonight.
Yeah, I think we could have some very interesting moments tonight because I'm hoping that those that are running as newcomers will have some honest questions for the incumbents, and maybe vice versa as well. I think it could be very, very festive that way.
Listen closely and join us after with your opinions on what you heard tonight. We'll do the recap beginning at 8 after this 2-hour Fargo School District, Fargo School Board election candidate debate tonight.
Should be good. Until we talk to you next, up next, Ty Schonert, Tom Tucker, and 9 candidates, like Scott said. Isn't that great? 9 people getting involved for 4 spots. We'll see you back here at 8. The debate is next.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
If you've got a pull-behind trailer, this is for you. Boat or ATV, flatbed or job trailer, Dakota Trailer Service can handle them all. Dakota Trailer Service does DOT inspections and can fix anything we find. Tires, brakes and bearings, lights and wiring, axle alignment or replacement. Whatever you need, call today to set up your inspection or repairs. Dakota Trailer Service, 532-2604. That's 532-2604.
Hi, Gus here from Precision Concrete Cutters Ramjack North. Due to the lack of the moisture in the soil, we've been experiencing more calls regarding foundation movement. Lack of moisture causes soil to contract and pull away from your foundation. If you notice dirt pulling away from your home, you'll need to make sure that you don't have bigger issues. Cracks in your sheetrock or outside walls, sloped floors, sticking doors and windows. Contact us today at 701-280-7038. Precision Concrete Cutters Ramjack North, your complete foundation experts.
Border Plains Equipment in Williston, North Dakota is seeking a full-time service writer. If you excel in customer service, organization, and problem solving, they want you on the team. Enjoy competitive benefits including insurance, retirement plans, and more. Email your resume to hr@plainsag.com today. That's hr@plainsag.com. And join Border Plains Equipment, a 100% employee-owned company.
Hey, on behalf of the team at Barron's, I want to talk to you about the word get-together. You're having a get-together. Want to promote some team building. Maybe you want to put a Friday fun day together, a work lunch, holiday party. Get on the calendar now. They even offer catering for your office. Call Ashley at Kingpins, 701-532-BOWL, 701-532-BOWL. Push extension 3. And no matter what kind of get-together you're getting together on, make it Barron's for a get-together.
Transform your home into a dazzling display with Holden Solar's Gemstone Permanent Architectural Lighting. Our lights aren't just for Christmas, they can light up your home like the 4th of July. With the Gemstone app, change the colors on your home and illuminate any occasion in style. Say goodbye to ladders or yearly service fees. Discover the endless possibilities today. Call 218-78-SOLAR for a free quote. That's 218-78-SOLAR.
If your job is just a job, reboot your 2024 with a career at Tharaldson Ethanol. Be part of a work family that operates one of the largest ethanol plants in America. Clean, state-of-the-art facility that is leading North Dakota's energy revolution. From family-friendly policies like 4 days on, 4 days off, exceptional compensation, benefits, bonus, and incentives. Positions start at $75,000 to $80,000 per year. Bring a strong work ethic and Tharaldson Ethanol will train you on the job. Apply online right now at tharaldsonethanol.com.
Summer's on now at your premier pontoon dealer, Ray Sport Marine. Pair them up with a Yamaha motor and you're good to go. The pontoon selection is huge with options to fit every budget. So hurry to Ray Sport and Marine, Moorhead, Perham, Bemidji at their new location 3 miles east on Highway 2. And now Ray Sport and Marine is in Alexandria too, formerly Stubbs Marine. Get your best deal now when your passion is the water. Ray Sport and Marine. Shop now at raysmarine.com. raysmarine.com.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
Hey guys, Dakota Tire's growing our sales team, and we're looking for someone with sales experience or tire industry experience. So if you're a tire tech and are a people person looking to advance, this might be for you. Dakota Tire has an established clientele and a fast-paced business. Commissions are great, so we won't hire just anyone. We need someone who understands the service of sales. So if that sounds like you, swing on by to speak with Kirk or check us out at dakotatirefargo.com.
Election 2024. 4 seats are up for grabs in a passion-filled Fargo School Board race. This is the Fargo School Board Debate, brought to you by Dakota Tire and Dakota Trailer Service on WDAY Radio and The Flag.
And good evening, and thanks for tuning in tonight on AM 970 WDAY Fargo and AM 1100 WZFG Dilworth for this live debate, also streaming on our social media platforms. We're hosting all 9 candidates running for Fargo School Board. I'm WDAY Midday News Anchor Tom Tucker, and I'm serving as the moderator for tonight's contest along with my colleague, WDAY News reporter Ty Schonert. The election for 4 seats on the board, the school board is set for June 11th, and incumbents Nikkie Gullickson and Seth Holden are seeking re-election, and they are here with us tonight. The other candidates running who are also here tonight are Ryan Dodd, Ali Ohlenberger, Don Morgan, John Campbell, Kristen Nelson, Paul Moorer, and Jason Nelson. Thanks to all of you for being here. We are pleased to have you all with us. Right now, Ty, if you would, please give us a brief overview of the format we'll be following for the next 2+ hours.
So if you have any rules, questions throughout this, feel free to refer to me, ask me any questions. I'm happy to talk to you about any of those things. So at any point, if you hear this sound, I would need you to begin to wrap up your statements. We have a lot of people, we have a lot of content to get to. If you hear it a second time, we will begin moving on. So mics will be muted, all that fun stuff. Each candidate will have a 1-minute opening statement. And throughout
90 second
opening statement, thank you very much. And throughout the debate, you will have 90 seconds as well to continue your statements as well as we answer questions. So for each of those. If any candidate mentions any of you by name, Tom will determine if the mentioned candidate is allowed a 1-minute rebuttal. He will then call on you for a response if one is given. The order of the speakers are completely randomized for one exception. Each candidate will speak first and last for a question at least once. So you'll at least be first and at least be last one time in here. So we're trying to be fair. And when we begin to wrap up, there will be 90-second closing statements as well. So, as we need to remember, but usually we're all good here. Let's remember to be civil, respectful, and concise. Best of luck to each of the candidates this evening.
All right, time for opening statements. John Campbell, you're first.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm John Campbell. I'm running for school board. I've been in the Fargo-Moorhead area for close to 30 years. I did get married 25 years ago. I am a graduate of the Fargo Public Schools. My wife, Asta Campbell, also is too. I have 2 kids that are 23 and 25, and they both are graduates of Fargo Public School. Today I'm standing on engagement with our students, engagement with our teachers, equity and inclusion in our school districts, looking at governance that makes sense, policies that make sense, taking a stand on some key issues to help with behaviors and safeties in our school. Again, my name is John Campbell, and I'm running for school board.
All right, thank you. Next is Ali Ohlenberger.
You all bounced around. I thought I was going in order here. Apologies. Thank you to the Flag and WDAY for having us and hosting this wonderful event. As Tom said, I am Ali Ohlenberger, and I'm running for the Fargo School Board. So reasons why I'm running for the Fargo School Board is I have been a voice of change within the Fargo-Moorhead community, looking at, the decisions that have been made at the top of our school district and trying to understand how those are trickling down into our actual classrooms and ensuring that our children are getting the most value for their education and support of our educators. I plan to be a school board member that it comes to the table to discuss things, raise a healthy level of skepticism, seek clarity, and ensure that we are utilizing our tax dollars to the best benefit of our teachers and our students. I hope to have your vote on June 11th. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, Seth Holden.
Good evening. My name is Seth Holden. I'm just finishing up my first term as a school board member, and I'm seeking re-election. Both my wife and I are products of Fargo Public Schools, and ironically, we're about to run full circle on that as our oldest will start at Horace Mann here in the fall. I'd like to thank WDAY Radio for hosting this event. I want to give a great thanks to our community and how supportive they've always been for public education and our district here in Fargo. I ran originally because I feel that public education is the greatest thing that we can offer our society, and it's one of the most important investments we can make. In the time that I've been a school board member, I've had the opportunity to work with some really great people and do some really great work with those people. Fargo Public Schools is an amazing district. We've done a lot of great work. I want to be able to continue that work. I love to do the work. I'm passionate about the work. I love this district. I love my community. I love the city of Fargo, and it's been absolutely the honor of my life to be able to serve in this capacity, and I would be absolutely humbled to be able to continue to do this work. So I would be seeking your vote on June 11th. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Moorer.
Hi, I'm Paul Moore. I'd also like to, thank the flag and WDAY for hosting this. I guess a reason I got into running for school board is I had seen some interest. I got to talk to a few people about, things that are going on, and I came to school board meetings to try and find out for myself. And so I guess if I had to sum up what I am about to, say, would be like a communication. I mean, I know communication is a very big, broad issue, but from the people I've been talking to, the only reinforcement is everybody needs to have a voice. The teachers need to have a voice, and I've talked to teachers who have said, that they seem hesitant to come forward to talk to staff and the school board, and I want to be there for that. I've talked to some parents who are kind of, they're very busy. Parents are very busy, and they have issues that they want to bring forward, but they have, band concerts to go to. They have school things to go to. They have sports things to go to. So they're running around a lot. My 2 kids did graduate from Fargo North. They got an excellent public school education. And so now I want to be the parent who comes back and says, hey, I'm here so that you can talk to me and get a response. So that, if you go to a school board meeting, you will definitely hear something back. I'm running on June 11th, and I would really appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Don Morgan.
Hi, I'm Dawn Morgan. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. It's caused me to think a lot more about the position I'm running for. I'm learning already, and I've heard that you're supposed to be quiet the first year you're on any board of importance. And so my learning experience has already started. Education is the most exciting thing that's happened in my life. I grew up in North Fargo. I had teachers on both sides of my parents' families. I went to Fargo Central High School, which I loved, and still stay in touch with all my buddies. And my son graduated from South High. I think lifelong learning is the key to having a really enriched life. And to begin to create that seed in a student is such an honorable position. And that's why I think the teachers, because of so many students and students coming from so many different directions and cultures, it's been a very difficult time. And I think more so for the teachers than the administration. We have in many different parts of public government administrations that need to deal with changing issues all the time. And I love the stimulation of critical thinking.
All right, thank you. Nikkie Gullickson.
Thank you. Thank you to the flag, and thank you to WDAY for having us here this evening. This is a great opportunity to get our voices and thoughts out to people and have people ask us questions. I am married with 3 kids, the oldest of whom will graduate from Davies 2 weeks, June 2nd. And I have 2 more kiddos every 2 years, each 2 years coming behind that, so we are heavily involved. My husband graduated from Fargo South. My father-in-law was principal at Agassiz and Ben Franklin and retired from Discovery. I grew up in a family of educators. I've seen and heard both sides, both administratively and as far as teachers' concerns go. Why am I running? Well, I initially ran in 2020 because I knew some hard decisions would have to be made given the state of the world at that time. I wanted to sign up to understand that and be able to communicate that. Again, we have more difficult decisions coming with the conditions of our buildings and how we're going to move forward. And I want to continue to work with the community on that. I want to be here to support our teachers and do everything we can to make their day better as best we possibly can. And yes, if we can pay them more, we all want to do that. To only some degree is that within our hands. That has to do with federal and state funding as well. We want to protect public education. We want our teachers to be able to teach. And there are a lot of demands that are being put upon them, not just from administration, but from government entities as well regarding testing.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen Nelson.
Thank you, WDOI, for hosting this forum today. My name is Kristen Nelson, she, her. I'm running for school board to ensure that our district remains centered on serving and respecting all students. I'm a proud mom of a South Fargo 5th grader. I have a degree in elementary education from MSUM and a master's degree in leadership from University of Jamestown. My background in education and knowledge in leadership, organizational theory, and strategic planning gives me a unique perspective and ability to bring new ideas to the board. Public education is key to the success of our kids and security of our future. I'm running because I believe my experience and skills will be an asset to advancing the mission of educating and empowering all students to succeed. I can bring new ideas and perspectives to move our district forward, and I also hope to unify the board and leadership with district staff to create a culture of trust and respect.
And thank you. Next, Jason Nelson, and just to confirm, no relation to Kristen Nelson. Are we correct to presume that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. My name is Jason Nelson. Thank you for having me, and thanks to the other 8 candidates for running. It gives our community a great opportunity to pick 4 new board members. First, I just want to talk about what I stand on, and first would be safety and security of our building in our classrooms. If you talk to teachers or parents around this community, there's a lot of lacking in our buildings and in the classrooms, and that needs to change. Also would be transparency. I believe that we need to be completely transparent with the teachers, with our community, with all the stakeholders in the education system. And third would be just being physically responsible for the money that we have. Governments have ballooned over COVID and used some of that COVID money to grow. We need to look at what they're doing with that money now that it's gone and how we're spending it, and look at reducing our overhead as building costs increase and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Dodd.
Gentlemen, thanks for having us. My name is Ryan Dodd. I was a teacher for 5 years. I taught middle school and high school band for 3. I was a substitute for the better part of a couple of years. My wife and I have 3 kids. We have a 2nd grader over at Longfellow right now and a kindergartner that will start in the fall. Went to school at NDSU, and so I have a lot of friends that just naturally, they found jobs in the district, and yeah, I get to talk to them regularly. I get to hear all the things that make them incredibly happy about teaching. But I also get to hear a lot about the things that they wish they could change. My campaign is all about teachers, because I think equipping teachers makes many other problems in the district more achievable. It just makes other things that are issues in the district easier when teachers have what they need to do what they need to do. I think we need a free-flowing channel of support and resources directed right at our teachers. Retention is a huge issue, as we all know. Teachers are frustrated from the impossible burden that we put on their shoulders, and they're leaving the career and they're burned out, and that's maybe our biggest issue. Helping teachers means a lot of things. It of course means continuing to pay them like the professionals they are. It means giving them the support that they need in classrooms. And it also means opening the channels of communication so that the people that can give them help we'll do that, and I'm looking forward.
All right. Thank you. Thank you much. All right. Moving on to question number 1. According to numbers compiled by the state for the academic year 2022 through 2023, 55% of the students in the district are less than proficient in English language arts. In math achievement, 60% are less than proficient, and in science achievement, 51% are less than proficient. How would you rate this performance, and to what do you attribute these numbers? First person to answer here is Paul Moorer.
Okay, so I've looked at these numbers before. It's very nice that they have them all published, in the pamphlets. I would say that, if you look at it just in terms of look at it from school perspective, if an A is 90 and a B is, well, they're talking down here at the F level, okay? So I think that these are failures. We're failing our kids. We need to, bring them up and not just graduate them, but graduate them with the skills that will allow them to move forward into whatever career that they're looking forward to. I do like the thing where they talk about you can be military ready, you can be ready to go to a vocational school, or you can be ready to go to college. Those are good goals, and I want to see these kids get there. But right now, we're graduating kids who they graduate, but should they be? Because we shouldn't just be passing kids because we need to pass them and keep the numbers up. And that's not right. We need to support the teachers. The teachers probably do know best. That says, okay, look, this little Johnny here, he needs to do a little bit more in his English class. So, they give him extra assignments and whatever, but at the end, if he's not getting those assignments done, the teacher also has to be able to say, to the parents and say, hey, your child isn't doing so well. So what are we going to do about it? It's the teacher looks at the problem and identifies it, but then in the end, the teacher and the parents work together in order to solve it.
Thank you. Jason Nelson.
Thank you. I'd say the district's partially proficient at allowing the kids to move on with their education. They're not meeting the standards, and they need to refocus on the core value of what the school district is there for, and focusing on those kids so that they have the education they need, so when they leave the district, they can be successful after school. And that might look different for different kids. Not every kid can be in a traditional classroom, so there's other opportunities for them to learn and get their education and move forward for success in life.
Thank you. Don Morgan.
The statistics don't surprise me. I think they're probably reflective or even better than most of the numbers throughout the country. The statistic now is that 78% of Americans are literate, that many of them do not read a book after they've graduated from college or from high school. I think this is more than just the Fargo Public Schools statistics. I think it's a much larger problem. One of the reasons I think is that education is not valued as it once was, and that kids go to school unprepared, and they don't have the focus within their homes to say, this is really important. This education is going to contribute to your ongoing success and dealings in the world. I'm an English major. I graduated from NDSU, but having run a nonprofit in downtown Fargo, 501c3 for 25 years, I see people who have graduated from college that are not literate. And it's because they're streamed and they're not really getting the wide, broad education that they need to be a better contributor. It's not just a preparation for a job. It's a lifelong experience.
Thank you much. Seth Holden.
Thank you. As I stated earlier, I believe that Fargo Public Schools is an amazing district, but with anything that is great, there's always room for improvement. I think we need to put resources where they are needed for the students that need extra help and need to be uplifted. We also need to understand that that's not a zero-sum game. if we put more resources towards those that need them, that doesn't necessarily mean that other students are going to get less of an education than those students. Some students just need more help. We have a lot of English learners in our district that need some extra help. Right now, the district is working on better ways that the board can hold administration accountable by being easier able to make sure that we're meeting our strategic initiative goals. And I think we just need to continue to look at innovative ways of education that can help lift some of these students up without causing an extra undue burden to our teachers in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. John Campbell.
I would say that we're probably on the lower end of things. A couple of things are the home environment that the kids are coming from. Help set the tone. There's needed services getting kids ready for the school environment. Then moving into the school environment, that has changed with behaviors, with meeting kids where they're at as far as mental health needs, hunger, different things like that. Many have said getting the initiative of teaching kids where they're at, or utilizing different structures to teach kids, helping them be successful in the classroom will help them be successful outside of the classroom, focusing on some emotional and social pieces that go along with being in a school setting, getting ready for a school setting, and then transitioning away from a school setting. But right now, with the numbers, if we're community-wise, we are doing better than I believe the nation is doing, or a lot of areas in the nation are doing. Can we do better? Absolutely. Do we have the staff to do better? I'll echo what Seth said. We have the staff to do that in the Fargo Public Schools. It's setting the culture and the tone in our community to have those kids be accepted and ready to be in school.
Thank you. Nikki Gullickson.
Thank you. I'm going to echo a couple different things that we are hearing, because this isn't exclusive to Fargo. This isn't exclusive to our administration. This is a nationwide situation. Given that, I'm not willing to necessarily pass the buck. Can we do better? Yes, we absolutely can, and we know we can. We know there's a fix to this, but we also know that our Fargo community values a well-rounded education. Can we fix this? We can, and what we would have to do is we would have to narrow our focus and cut out some of the extra things that we do, and nobody wants to do that because we value a well-rounded education here in Fargo. Kids are coming from homes that are not nearly as supportive. We have kids that are coming into kindergarten that have never held a pencil, that have never held a crayon, that have never scribbled on a sheet of paper. They aren't sleeping at night. We have all kinds of different issues coming into our schools that we are trying to meet those kids where they're at and lift them as best that we can. Some of our most vulnerable learners need additional assistance, and that is something that we are working on. And I think what people miss is they come to us and they go, well, my kid's not getting a good education. The thing is that when we have kiddos that are struggling, if we lift those kids that are more towards the bottom, then the numbers start to even out a little better. So we have to really, truly be supporting everybody to make this effort work.
Thank you. Ryan Dodd.
Yeah, the proficiency situation school to school is unfortunate. I'm incredibly lucky to send my kids eventually to schools that have a high proficiency in all of those subjects. And it saddens me to know that 4 miles away in another North Fargo school, I think we have probably the lowest proficiencies. And there are a lot of things that Fargo Public Schools could do to help. We do know that there are some things out of our control. What are students' situations where they're coming from at home? We can't help a lot of things, but I will also echo a sentiment that allocation of resources is something that I think can be managed and moved around, because if we know there's an issue in a certain school, well, we should focus our resources in those places. I think Fargo Public Schools proficiency rates are pretty comparable to the rest of the state. Of course, we're not making excuses. We want to see those things go up. But I think, once again, supporting our teachers in any way possible, and that means supporting them in the classroom with the people that can help them lift up their proficiency in various ways, is, I think, needs to be a major focus.
Thank you. Allie Olenberger?
Yes. So in my day-to-day job, data is something that I do day in and day out. So looking at the data, understanding the data, and understanding the factors that go into it. When we talk about proficiency scores, first and foremost, the score rating that we're currently at in Fargo Public Schools is not because of our educators. They are, I think I want to say, the highest district of educators with master's degrees live in the Fargo Public District. So it's not for the lack of the educators. To me, the biggest understanding that I've gotten out of conversations with our teachers is that it's due to a lot of times the behaviors in the classroom and kids just being like, hey, I don't care about this test. I'm just going to mark C all the way down the page. So I don't know necessarily that we are that low in terms of proficiency. That being said, areas of opportunity and where we can focus on, to me, I like to dig in. I like to understand the root of that problem and understand what we can do to go about fixing it. Echoing some of the sentiments that have already been shared by fellow candidates is those allocation of resources and understanding where do we have the issues, what is the root of those problems coming from, and what can we do as a district to ensure that we're getting the right resources to the right kids to improve those overall proficiency scores.
Thank you. Finally, Kristen Nelson.
Thank you. Looking at the numbers across the state, I actually pulled the numbers for West Fargo, Grand Forks, and Bismarck. They're very similar within just a few percentage points of themselves. Now, like others have said, that's not to say that we should settle on a 50 plus partially proficient range, but it is kind of a snapshot of where we are as a state. Looking at our district and our district being, what we want it to be as the best in the state, I believe that we really do need to start at the lower level. Let's engage children more in a universal pre-K program, get them ready and focused on kindergarten so they are ready to learn and get in the building day one, knowing how to hold a pencil, like Nikki said, things of that nature. But we do need to look at how we meet the needs of all kids, and those needs are changing. It is the changing face of education, and I think we, as a district and as a board and as a community, need to come together to figure out how to meet those needs.
All right, and thank you for that. We are nearing the bottom of the hour, so it's going to be a good natural time for us to take a break. I thank you all for answering the first question. You listening right now are listening to a live candidates debate for people running for the Fargo School Board on WDAY AM 970, also simulcasting on the Flag AM 1100. I'm Tom Tucker along with my colleague Ty Schonert. Again, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in just a matter of moments.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
Hey guys, Dakota Tire's growing our sales team, and we're looking for someone with sales experience or tire industry experience. So if you're a tire tech and are a people person looking to advance, this might be for you. Dakota Tire has an established clientele and a fast-paced business. Commissions are great, so we won't hire just anyone. We need someone who understands the service of sales. So if that sounds like you, swing on by to speak with Kirk or check us out at Dakota Tire Fargo.
Summer's on now at your premier pontoon dealer, Ray Sport Marine. Pair them up with a Yamaha motor and you're good to go. The pontoon selection is huge with options to fit every budget. So hurry to Ray Sport and Marine, Moorhead, Perham, Bemidji at their new location 3 miles east on Highway 2. And now Ray Sport and Marine is in Alexandria too, formerly Stubbs Marine. Get your best deal now when your passion is the water. Ray Sport and Marine. Shop now at raysmarine.com. raysmarine.com.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
If you've
got a pull-behind trailer, this is for you. Boat or ATV, flatbed or job trailer, Dakota Trailer Service can handle them all. Dakota Trailer Service does DOT inspections and can fix anything we find. Tires, brakes and bearings, lights and wiring, axle alignment or replacement. Whatever you need, call today to set up your inspection or repairs. Dakota Trailer Service, 532-2604. That's 532-2604.
9 candidates, 4 open seats. This is the Fargo School Board Debate, brought to you by Dakota Tire and Dakota Trailer Service on WDAY Radio and The Flag.
And welcome back. You're listening to a live debate with the 9 candidates running for the Fargo School Board. I am moderating. I'm Tom Tucker, a WDAY midday news anchor, along with my newsroom colleague, a WDAY news reporter Ty Schonert, serving as moderator as well. Round 1 went off without a hitch. Everyone is behaving themselves very nicely, so commendations to you candidates for being civil. Moving on to question number 2 here. Earlier this year, District Superintendent Dr. Rupak Gandhi said the district would not adhere to a new North Dakota state law that requires district staff to tell parents of school children if parents ask how their children identify while at school. Instead, Gandhi said the district would follow federal law on issues related to gender identity. Do you agree or disagree with this position? And please state your reason why. First to answer here is Ryan Dodd.
Yeah, so 100% throw my support in for all of those groups, LGBTQ plus, trans, etc. So I guess I don't have a ton to say except, yeah, I know what the legislation was. I know that Dr. Gandhi took a specific position, but I generally support that. I think we need to do what we can to make these marginalized groups of kids. There's plenty of them in our very diverse student population. I think we need to do what we can do to uplift them, make them feel included, and I think the legislation did the opposite of that, so I think I'll just make it short and sweet and say I agree with his stance.
Thank you. Seth Holden?
I absolutely 100% support Dr. Gandhi's decision in this. I made it clear at the board meeting that he announced this that I supported his decision in this, and the reason I do that is because we need to be a district that puts the humanity of our students over state legislation. State legislation takes a backseat to federal law, and that is the country that we live in. We need to make sure also that our students feel welcomed and safe in our schools. And I've had conversations with students that fall into this group, and they are absolutely thrilled and pleased to be going to school in a district that they feel supported, and supported and respected students are going to be much more successful in their education if we look at their humanity rather than state legislation that I completely feel is absolutely unjust. Thank you.
Allie Uhlenberger.
Hi there. So first and foremost, I have all of the support in the world for the LGBT community as well. I have family members who also identify that way. However, I do actually disagree with the stance that Dr. Gandhi took in this situation. The law is the law, and whether you like the law or you dislike the law, there is right ways to go about things and wrong ways to go about things. I do think that parents need to be involved. These are minor children, and I don't like the fact of not including the parents in these situations. They should be there to be able to be supportive in the school environment as well as in the home environment. And the fact that he said that he would willingly break the law is a concern. He is a leader of an educational system. We already have behaviors in our classrooms happening day in and day out, and having a leader up at the front of that school district saying that I don't care, I'm going to break the law because I don't like the law, sets the wrong precedent in my opinion.
Thank you. Don Morgan?
I would support Dr. Gandhi in this. I know what kids are like. They change their ideas and their identities on a daily basis. You never know what a kid is going to be the next day. And a lot of these complaints are taken too seriously, because in a couple of years, kids can be saying something completely different. I think we need to give kids the variance and the space to be who they think they might be sometime in the future. You never know, because you can think, oh, well, someday I'm going to be a meteorologist. Or my mother, who taught second grade, said one of her kids wanted to be a tree surgeon. And what difference does it make? I don't think either one of them probably turned out to be either. So I think with kids, they have great imaginations, and that every little thing, which I think this is too, should be brought to parents and discussed as if it's a huge issue. There are social trends right now that cause kids to say, oh, maybe I'll be a boy. And but that, I think it's a phase, and I think it's going to change. And I think as a school district, we need to be very patient with our students.
Thank you. John Campbell?
I 100% support the superintendent in his decision. Why humanity and dignity, our legislators don't get to dictate what that looks like. Our students, again, are in an atmosphere of learning, creativity, different things like that. And so as far as I'm concerned, the support that he threw behind, or my support that I'm throwing behind him is 100%, and it's unfledgling. For our state representative, our legislators, to make demands or laws that are not inclusive to all and show no equity, shows in poor taste, where a small group of folks want to go. So that's not where we need to be. That's not who we are as a community. I 100% support Dr. Rupak in Gandhi in the federal piece that he was passionate about. Maybe some of the language that he used wasn't particularly helpful, but I support where he was at, and I believe it was a moment of passion and standing up for a group of folks that haven't always been represented well.
Thank you. Paul Moorer?
Yes, I'm against what Dr. Gandhi said. Like Allie, I agree that the law is the law, okay? You don't get to pick and choose. If you don't like the way the law is, you have the opportunity to, go back and change the law at a future time. You can go in, you can lobby, you can make your point and try to see what's going on. I mean, it's not that I don't want kids to be picked on. It's hard to believe, I suppose, that somebody who's 6'2" now I wasn't always, and I was picked on quite a bit when I was younger. I don't want to see kids getting picked on. I want to see them treated as individuals. I want to see, though, that if it's not a phase that they're going through, that the parents need to know. And it shouldn't be optional for a parent to not know. I mean, it's state law does outweigh federal law. And the example I used in someone earlier is take marijuana. Marijuana is illegal on a federal level, but states are passing state laws in order to make it legal in those states. The same thing applies here. We've passed a law that says the teachers have to tell the parents when their students are doing something that they need to know about.
Thank you. Nikkie Gullickson?
Thank you. I do support Dr. Gandhi 100%. Federal law overrides state law, and this is farther reaching than simply a decision made in a school district. We have kids dying because they are not being recognized, and they are not being supported, and they are fearful. And this is just basic human rights. And Don's right. Many different things can happen in a kiddo's life. Ideas change and different things like that. I'd like to give people a little something else to think about. And I've got a question, and people can think about that answer. If you know that telling a parent is going to cause a child harm when they leave that building or when they get home, do you still tell that parent? The district is totally willing to work with parents and children and bring them together if at all possible. The reasons behind perhaps not saying something to a parent are because there is concern for the safety of that child. And so I'd like everybody to think about that. And this isn't an all or none. The district hasn't said, we're not working with anybody, we're not telling anybody. We're trying to keep those kids safe that we can keep safe. And we are completely willing to work with any parent and any child and any family that is being supportive of their student.
Thank you. Kristen Nelson.
I echo a lot of the sentiments my running mates have said. I fully support Dr. Gandhi in his decision to affirm queer students across the district. Working with queer youth, families who have queer youth across the city and across the state, we know how going to public school can make someone feel who is just a little bit different. Our support for our kids who come into our building is because we center our care and our support to our students. If a parent isn't supportive at home, obviously that kid is not telling that parent for a very good reason, and they have somebody who is supportive in their school building who they can trust with their most personal thoughts to. One supportive adult in a queer student's life can reduce the risk of suicide by 40%. It's not a small statistic, so we do need to keep supporting our queer kids.
Thank you. Jason Nelson.
Thank you. First of all, I support all students within the district. I would have taken a different approach because I think there is no punitive anything from the state for taking that stance, which unfortunately they may take up in legislation next time to tie his statement and his actions to punitive for the district, which is unfortunate. My past, I spent a majority of my career in investigations with the Fargo Police Department as a detective, sergeant, and lieutenant, and many times the suspect in child abuse cases and stuff is someone at the home, whether it's a direct parent, relative, or a significant other. And in those cases, they would be the wrong person to tell this to. But that's where we need to engage, like Cass County Social Services and things like that, and use the correct mechanisms in place to support those kids and make sure that they're protected when they leave the school.
So just to clarify, you do support Dr. Gandhi's position on this?
I'm someone that obviously, as a police officer, a believer in the rule of law. I don't think that's the stance he should have taken. It is the one he did take, and there's probably going to be some ramifications for it. I think there's other ways to protect kids that need to be protected when they leave the school district and go home.
Thank you for clarifying. All right, question number 3.
Fargo Public Schools recently gathered public input on the district's long-range facilities plan. The plan could include the addition of new schools, modifications or changes to existing campuses, and possibly even school closures. What are your thoughts on the proposed long-range plan and future needs when it comes to facilities? First up, we'll start with Nikkie Gullickson.
Thank you for that question. We are looking at all options. Fargo historically has done a very good job of frugally maintaining our buildings. We have done very well. Because of that, some things haven't been attended to with the speed that they perhaps should have been, and that is causing some rapid decline. I have been very invested in this long-term process. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. The dollars that we're talking about are over a 10-year, potentially longer period of time. Right now we're running, I believe, at 6 schools with under 200 children. And that is something to be concerned about as far as fiscal responsibility. Can we provide better educational outcomes if we bring some of these students together? It would be better support for the students, better support for the teachers. There can be more educational offerings. There's a lot of different pieces to consider. I am very proud of the district for presenting this to the community, accepting and incorporating community feedback. They've done several meetings. They have met with neighborhood associations. Fargo neighborhood preservation is a consideration. There's a lot of moving parts to it. But I think working together as a community, we can come to at least things that we can agree upon so we can move forward and provide the best education for our kids.
Awesome, thank you for that. Next, we have Kirsten Nelson.
So I was part of the Long Range Facility Planning Steering Committee, and this was not an easy or quick task. A big ask of us was to dive in to the numbers, the research, the data, and not gonna lie, it took me a couple meetings to understand and get a hold of all of that data. But when we look at the numbers, the money has to be spent across the district in some way, right? Like, we have to spend the money, whether it is refurbing old 100-year-old buildings or bringing, combining buildings together, making brand new learning environments for these kids on the north side, and doing away with buildings that don't serve our kids anymore. I do believe we came to a really, really good compromise and a good plan in the end that will go to the board this week, at the end of the month. Yeah. So I believe we have a really, really good start to a really bright future for our district if we can get the plan off the ground.
Thank you for that answer. Next up, we have Seth Holden.
Thanks. First, I'd like to thank our facilities director, James Hand, and Cooperative Strategies for the work that they've done on this. But most importantly, I'd like to thank our community for all the work that they've done over the how many months. Kristen, Paul, thank you guys, and thank the rest of the community for that. This plan is extremely important for several reasons because, first, we do have buildings that have been ignored for too long, and we do need to make sure that we are providing good spaces for our students to succeed. We need to make sure that we're being good stewards of taxpayer dollars by being efficient with our buildings. We also need a plan so that we're continuing to have something to strive for so that we're making the best decisions with taxpayer dollars. This plan, I haven't yet to see anything in my tenure so far that has brought so much community involvement in to such an important decision, and I think that we have a pretty good plan in place, and I look forward to continuing that work if I'm reelected. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Seth. Next up is Ryan Dodd.
So yeah, I've been to one of the long-range meetings. I learned a lot. Yeah, like I've said before, my kids are going to be in the district for a long, long time. So this issue is important to me. It is very interesting to see new plans pop up and see that, oh, they're going to combine these schools and put it on this parcel, or we're going to put the middle school here, we're going to put the middle school there. It's really cool, actually, to see all the brainstorming that's happening about where we can put schools and knowing that it's coming from the community. I agree. The amount of community feedback, there were hundreds of people at Fargo North when I was at a meeting, and it was, again, pretty neat. I know it's a difficult issue because it's emotional. What's going to happen to that school where you went to school and you wanted your kids to go to school? Just as long as we're keeping building anchors in the neighborhoods, I think we can keep the aesthetic, we can keep the feel, and keep kids going in and out of buildings and going to school. One thing that I think is really important is that in some of these situations where they'll be combining schools, I think there's going to be an opportunity to condense resources and give a lot of opportunities to teachers and students who may be struggling getting access to resources in other situations. And that just ties into the proficiencies that we were talking about in the previous question. Yeah, I think overall I would support it in general. I think it's going to do a lot of good for the district.
Thank you for that answer. Next up, we have Jason Nelson.
Thank you. Part of my current role at my job is overseeing facilities, and over the last several years we've seen just a huge increase in the cost of construction, the cost of maintaining, the cost of replacing, whether it's boilers, AC units, just the infrastructure of building has become extremely expensive. So we need to be good stewards of the taxpayer money that we receive. And I really think we need to look at consolidation and selling some of the properties we have to lessen that burden that we currently have. So I'd support a plan that looks at the consolidation and updating or bringing more schools together so we don't have so many rooftops to service.
Thank you for that answer. Next up, we have Paul Moore.
Yes, thank you. As Seth mentioned, I was on the facilities committee also, and yeah, there was a lot of data to kind of consume. It's every school in the district. Some of them very new, some of them are very, very old. I mean, over 100 years. I agree that one of the people who were in my little group was a custodian at one of the older schools, and he's just knocking off the different things that are need to be improved about his school. And at a certain point, the school does need to be repaired and be replaced. It's a huge financial burden, and I just want to make sure that we're just being careful when we move forward with this plan and say, okay, this is the logical steps that we need to do in order to make sure that we're doing the right thing at the right time. There's still some concerns. I mean, one of the things that was mentioned about combining the schools, which, yes, is going to be a very beneficial thing because it's sometimes there's, teachers that can be together. Their student-to-teacher ratios are actually below, the expected amount. But there's also the aspect of the walkability that I kind of want to concern myself with a little bit, because there's some of these areas where one of them, we're going to take the school out of that area and put in the academy. And that is probably the area of the town that probably least can afford to have the walkability.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next up, we have John Campbell.
Yes, well,
John Campbell.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. To answer or echo a couple of things that I've heard, the stewardship was a big piece. The work groups and the listening groups that were put together was a big piece to having this plan. In my earlier debate, I was concerned about what Paul had mentioned, the walkability or the parents, having that ability to have students closer or more entwined with their community and things like that. I continue to support the group conscience of these groups that were put together, because it is supporting the mission of Fargo Public Schools, which is educating and making sure all kids have the ability to succeed. The one thing that I would mention is for all voices to continue to be heard is to be able to have an answer from the board's position, to those folks that maybe don't care for the leaving of their school or the changing of the area and things like that, and having the ability to have empathy and understanding in that, and to continue to grow, because that can be a divide that is created, and it ends up affecting more and more things. And as we know, divides have a tendency of following, along. And so taking some time to do that would be great.
Thank you very much for the answer, John. Next up, we have Allie Allenberger.
Yes. So in terms of the long-range plan, I had a friend ask me at one point in time, she served on the committee, she goes, geez, Allie, there's a lot of data to go through. Why are you not on this committee? I was like, well, I applied and got told no thank you. So I do think that our district does tend to listen to the voices that they want to listen to in certain situations. I have been a critic of the school board's decisions in the past, obviously. And so, having your voice silenced doesn't feel very great. I will also say that in terms of long-range plan, I do think that there's a lot of great work that did go into this plan. The transparency on the data and the surveys and things like that, the website, they did a great job keeping everything up to date. And anybody that wanted to know what was going on it, they had access to the information. And I think that was very, very good. I think that we did see a lot of community engagement, and there was a lot of feedback shared. I don't envy the decisions that had to be made in terms of what to do and how to do it. And I do think that really in terms of the overall plan, I think it's a good one. Again, there's going to be hard feelings. There's going to be things that need to be done, but there is things that absolutely 100% need to be taken care of within our school district. You have school buildings today that do not have secure entrances. You have schools like Madison that have over 500 open work orders. You know, my questions would have started with, where have we spent the money over the last number of years where we've had all of these things go into such disrepair? So,
Awesome. Thank you very much for that answer. And next up, we have Dawn Morgan.
I'd like to answer that question. Dr. Gandhi was at a meeting with the Fargo Neighborhood Coalition, and he said deferred maintenance was a choice of the last superintendent of schools. And that went on for many years. And the position was, the earlier superintendent's position was based upon wanting to see a balanced budget. So the deferred maintenance is always a good way to get rid of old buildings. But old buildings also can be kept up and be wonderful places. I started the Fargo Neighborhood Coalition in 2017, and have been working with the planning department. I'm on the planning commission, and there are big plans for Fargo. And one of the things I think is that this is too limited in terms of the scope of what Fargo Public Schools are going to be asked to do. So I like to see the process slow down and take into consideration neighborhood preservation and cultural preservation, because we have different cultures in different neighborhoods. And I love the idea of people being able to be proud of especially the elementary schools that they went to. I see you're about to ring the bell. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for the answer. I'll be returning the microphone over to Tom Tucker.
All right. Thank you for those answers. We are now near the top of our first hour. We're going to go ahead and take another break, and then we'll come back after this with more questions. Once again, you are listening to this live candidates debate. 9 people running for the Fargo School Board. You are listening to WDAY AM 970 and the Flag AM 1100. We're also streaming live on our social media platforms right now as well. Quick break, more questions right after this.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
If you've got a pull-behind trailer, this is for you. Boat or ATV, flatbed or job trailer, Dakota Trailer Service can handle them all. Dakota Trailer Service does DOT inspections and can fix anything we find. Tires, brakes and bearings, lights and wiring, axle alignment or replacement. Whatever you need, call today to set up your inspection or repairs. Dakota Trailer Service, 532-2604. That's 532-2604.
Hey there, Scott here. Thinking about building in 2024? Don't forget to include Olaf Anderson in your plans. They've got you covered when it comes to cost, timeliness, materials, and everything in between. Whether it's a small addition or a brand new build, trust me, Olaf Anderson will not disappoint. They're your go-to turnkey commercial design build contractor. Visit olafanderson.com today and get started on your dream project.
50 years is a long time. A good long time when you're talking about Advanced Business Methods. Advanced Business Methods has been your locally owned office technology company for more than 50 years. Why do business with companies based somewhere else? Keep your money here in the community and support a local employee-owned business. Advanced Business Methods is your A-team for copiers, printers, and now managed IT services. Fast, reliable service too. Advanced Business Methods, 50 years and growing. Online at abmnow.com.
Every organization needs true leaders, people of courage and conviction who model ethical excellence. The University of Mary's online MBA program will equip you for this call. You'll develop the confidence of an executive, the insight of a specialist, and the integrity of a true leader, all with the help of supportive faculty mentors and up to $10,000 in scholarships. Discover true leadership at umary.edu/MBA.
At ATI Fargo, they understand how much you like your Duramax. They also know that your Duramax might be losing coolant or might have a check engine light come on for glow plugs. You shouldn't have to worry about your engine blowing a head gasket like it's a 6.0 Power Stroke. Come on, you've got better things to do. So bring it to ATI Fargo. They know Duramax, Power Stroke, and Cummins inside and out. And they have solid solutions for your emissions issues. Get your light-duty diesel pickup to ATI Fargo, where they have a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty on new parts. That's ATI Fargo.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
Hey guys, Dakota Tire's growing our sales team, and we're looking for someone with sales experience or tire industry experience. So if you're a tire tech and are a people person looking to advance, this might be for you. Dakota Tire has an established clientele and a fast-paced business. Commissions are great, so we won't hire just anyone. We need someone who understands the service of sales. So if that sounds like you, swing on by to speak with Kirk or check us out at dakotatirefargo.com.
9 candidates, 4 open seats. This is the Fargo School Board Debate, brought to you by Dakota Tire and Dakota Trailer Service on WDAY Radio and The Flag.
And good evening, and thanks for tuning in tonight on AM 970 WDAY Fargo and AM 1100 WZFG Dilworth for this live debate, also streaming on our social media platforms. We're hosting all 9 candidates running for Fargo School Board. I'm WDAY midday news anchor Tom Tucker, moderating tonight's contest, along with my colleague moderating as well, WDAY news reporter Ty Schonert. Great to have you all with us again here tonight, all 9 candidates. Time now for our next question. The district currently employs roughly, excuse me, I got ahead of myself. We'll get to that one in just a moment. Looking ahead. All right. A recent staff satisfaction survey showed 6 in 10 educators in the district are not satisfied with district leadership and management, while 8 in 10 do feel supported by building level leadership. What will you do that will improve educators' satisfaction with district leadership and management? That question goes to Allie Ohlenberger.
What a great question, because I think that this is something that many of my colleagues up here have actually touched on, right? Like, we are out here running, we're supporting our educators and our teachers. I don't think anybody running for school board just says, teachers, whatever, right? We're looking to support our educators. And when you're saying that over half of them are dissatisfied with leadership, we need to really truly understand why. Personally, I do think that Fargo is very too much top heavy in terms of administrative staff in our district office. And I would like to have, if the teacher does not feel that they're receiving those resources in their classroom, or they can't point to how that district office person is supporting somebody or in some way a child in a classroom, then we need to really question what that money is being spent on. As a hopeful school board member, that is one thing that I will be line by line through the budget of understanding where those dollars are being spent at that administrative level, and ensuring that we are making sure that those funds are in our classrooms. And I do think that we do need to make some changes in terms of cultural leadership at a administrative level.
Thank you. Seth Holden.
I'm encouraged by the data that they're supported in their buildings. That shows me that we have a good work culture with direct supervisors, principals within the buildings. As a board member, I think that we can. I don't think that necessarily cutting the number of administrators is necessarily going to change those numbers, but I think as a leader in the district, just encouraging dialogue and encouraging a district that from the top down really works hard to make themselves known, seen, and make our teachers feel supported. Like I said, I'm hopeful of what is going on in our buildings, and I just think that we could just encourage more inclusion in our buildings from our top administrators, and just support further communication and further collaboration with the buildings. So thanks.
Thank you. Jason Nelson.
Thank you. I would say that we need to really dive into what the data is. Saying that it's leadership problems, whether it's at the building level or the district, is very broad. You really got to work with groups to figure out what the underlying issue is so that can be resolved. Some surveys I've been involved in the past allow for anonymous communication between the leaders and the people that take the surveys. And when you have that ability, you're able to really ask the staff that put in their issues and drill down to what they are so you can resolve them. A broad survey like that does no good. You can throw a dart at the wall to pick what you want to eliminate to see if it has an impact, and retake a survey and see if it worked. Really, you got to dive in deep so you can get to those underlying root issues. And there may be different issues at different buildings and with the administration that need to be looked at.
Thank you. Jason Nelson. Excuse me, my apologies. Paul Moorer.
Okay, yeah, it is a little disappointing to hear that teachers don't trust their administration. I mean, it's good to hear that they do well with their principals. So I spent basically 30 years in different leadership positions, and one of the things that we always talk about is communication. Talking about diversity, there's a diversity that comes in communicating with people you don't like. And I would like to be that person as a conduit that says, okay, look, I want to earn your trust. I want you to, if you tell me something in confidentiality, that I keep it that way, and you learn to trust me about it so that I can deal with the different groups of people, and so that we can try to get things done. We talked about, one of the questions I had previously was about a union. I've been on both sides of that issue. So really just to find out that, what person A's issues are, and be able to turn around and go over to Administrator A and say, hey, the anonymous person, A, is, concerned about these things. What do you think? And let them come back and say, hey, okay, I didn't think about it that way before. And then go have a little bit of back and forth, and so that we can hone in on an issue. And hopefully, because I think most of the time we all have the same goal in mind. We want to see the students do well. And when we get back to that basic principle, then we can, assume that most people are, going for that goal because that's why they're in education.
Thank you. Don Morgan.
I definitely support the teachers. I know that not everyone is always going to be happy no matter where they are. And I've always been interested in learning more about the concerns that are within the majority of those who are making a complaint, because usually there's something vital there, something that needs to be addressed. Having experienced a lot of educators, I feel that most teachers are very proud of what they do, and they're especially interested in their students. That's why they teach. My son teaches at a university in Ohio. He says he could do any number of things, but the reason that he continues to teach is because he loves his students, and he loves to see what happens between him and the students and one another. So the more that we can support the things that provide happiness to the teachers, if they are the smaller buildings are better for them, I'd say let's consider that. We want the students to feel good, the teachers to feel good. And just because we have complaints occasionally doesn't mean that that belongs as a major issue for administration.
Thank you. Ryan Dodd.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a common public school trope for administration and teachers to be at odds. I think it happens probably all over the place. But yeah, I agree. It's all about communication, and I think in teachers' eyes, there's a deficit of communication between administrators and teachers. I've been out door knocking for the past week or so, just trying to do that thing and get people ready to vote on June 11th. And yeah, I've talked to a lot of teachers. I've been door knocking my district. It seems like every 4 doors there's a teacher who's got something to say. I have examples. Student behaviors, when there's kids who are kids unfortunately are violent with each other, and they have those behavior issues, and a teacher writes a note to a principal or somebody saying, hey, I need to know what to do tomorrow when I'm in class. How do I approach this situation? That goes out, and I'm hearing a lot about things not coming back in. There's a part-time teacher in North Fargo who travels to 3 different schools, and her prep is her travel, and she doesn't get paid for it. So she packs up, travels, unpacks, and goes back, and somehow has to figure out like how to plan for the class that she's going to. That's normally planning time. How do we reconcile that? And then I've talked to a lot of teachers who are just generally afraid to communicate with administration because they don't want to come across as ungrateful, or they don't want to disrupt those professional relationships. So yeah, communication is key.
Thank you. Kristen Nelson.
Holding a master's degree in leadership, I could get really weeded in organizational theory right now, but I'm going to spare everybody. I find that interesting. Not everybody else does. So what I had done in my final project as in my master's program was research the changing face of what it looks like to be an employee and be a leader for that employee. It is so different now, especially post-COVID. What motivates employees, what motivates administrators to do well, and what leadership looks like. These things are radically different. The research is brand new. There's not a lot out there in the last 4 years or so. I'm not going to lie. It was hard, but anecdotally, just like everybody else has said, communication and understanding what the issues are and what employees value and care about is number one. We have a strategic plan for the district. I hate to say it, communication or culture eats strategy for lunch. It is the number one thing that brings down strategy. So if we need to build a culture of respect from the top down, what does communication and engagement look like, and how can we close that gap from leadership all the way down to building staff?
Thank you. Nikkie Gullickson.
Thank you. A few things to think about here. I find the statistic very interesting because, what did you say? Is it 6 out of 10?
That is correct. 6 in 10 educators in the district are not satisfied with district leadership and management.
And then 8 out of 10 are satisfied with their building leadership.
Correct.
Which is interesting to me because who is leading those principals? It's the administration. So then that causes me to take a look at this in a little different angle. And from what I know and have experienced, I would want to encourage teachers to approach administration because they want to hear from the teachers. And if a teacher has an idea that can help us, help others, help a different building, we definitely want to flesh that out. And if Dr. Gandhi's walking the halls, I would encourage them to talk to him. But I think you're right, Ryan. I think there is concern that people don't want to seem ungrateful, and they don't want to stir the pot, and they don't want to upset anybody. And I think we need to get past that. I think we are all team players, and I think we all need to work together. When you see a school board member, I have encouraged people to come and talk to me. Administration has told us, and we have seen them do it. Come and talk to us. Reach out to us. Not scary. No retribution. We all want to work together. Communication works. It is key, but it has to go both ways.
Thank you. John Campbell.
I thought the numbers showed a disconnect also between the building level, which was 8 and 10 were satisfied with their building level, and 6 and 10 were unsatisfied with the upper management or the administrative piece. Having some experience in education as an administrator, very small district, but still having some of the same issues, it was important to me to really take a look at why the buildings were doing really well and where that disconnect or what was that. And a number of you had made comments about not wanting to rock the boat or different things. And that suggests a lack of transparency or feeling comfortable moving back and forth between building level and administrative. To me, that feels like there's some sort of grit. As an administrator, I would take that on to find out what that was. Understanding that culture does take time, and feelings and past events and experiences take time to heal and different things like that. But continuing to have that culture of transparency, open dialogue, how come your building, is doing so well? What can you help with the administrative, piece to that? And having that day in, day out, year in, year out, moving forward. We're responsible for the action of making this better. The outcome will come if we put the action in.
Thank you. All right, next question. The district currently employs roughly 18 employees who work fully remotely or in hybrid fashion, including the district's human capital officer, Jeff McKenna, whose salary is roughly $155,000 a year. Also, Director of Educational Justice, Tristan Love, he works remotely. His salary is roughly $131,000 a year. What are your thoughts on high-level administrators such as these working remotely while visiting the district once or twice a month? John Campbell.
So personally, again, my experience has been we are meeting the kids where they're at, and that's in school. Having that ability to have quick contact, see people, and having that that experience where kids are in school. I don't know every job description that is virtual, and there may be some that can be done virtually where there isn't. Some of them are 100% need to be in support of the teachers, the administrative staff. They need to be where the kids are at. That's where I would like to see our focus. I think as a board member or as a prospective board member, I would love to be able to give that guidance, give that support towards that. I believe it supports the mission of the Fargo Public Schools, which is, educating and empowering kids, and we need to be in front of them to do those things. So some of the positions may be a virtual position where it's data or things like that, but where there are parts where they're interacting with the kids, with the administration, and with the community, it needs to be in person.
Thank you. Don Morgan.
Very good comments, John. There are a lot of different jobs, and they don't all need to be hands-on. I understand that some of these positions are support to Dr. Gandhi, and there are people that he has worked with before. It may have little to do with the actual contact with the students or the teachers, and as you said, it could be data processing. It could be any number of things. We don't know, I don't know anyway, what these workers are doing. So I couldn't criticize it. I would think that they would have been hired for a position, that the value of it would have been evaluated and passed by administration. And if you want to ask me, I could always use the support of support staff, like administrative assistants. That makes everything work. And if you don't have those people in place, it's not going to work down at the elementary school level.
Thank you. Paul Moorer.
So I was really interested when I started reading the stories about the two people, especially the two people you mentioned, about the people who are working remotely. Part of the thing that I've done in my past is I had to deal with a human resources person who wasn't located at the place everybody was working. It was very difficult to try and get a hold of that person. So I assume there's the human capital person, without reading the exact job description. That's a person who is like a human resources. They're trying to deal with the things that are going on with the people at that particular time. Well, when I was doing it, you would talk to somebody and try to say, hey, can you talk to me of this? Hey, can you tell me about that? But very hard to get a hold of that person. So basically what ended up happening is I ended up being the human resources person. And although I, have a concern for people, I'm not, classically trained as a human resources person. Something else that I noted while I was looking at these two people make approximately $300,000. If, one of the arguments was, well, you miss out on the best people if you don't, get the people who are remote. Like I said, well, some of these jobs are meant to be here. And I likened it to going to Mayo Clinic. Yeah, you can go to Mayo Clinic and find the best doctors. But the problem is, do you always need the best doctor? You can go to your local physician, and he'll give you most of the solutions that you need. When you absolutely positively need to get an expert, well, then you can go to that person and get a contract with them.
Thank you. Seth Holden.
As a school board, our one and sole employee is the superintendent. We have to be able to trust that superintendent is going to execute our mission, and that's to educate and empower all students to succeed. If a remote employee is executing that mission and our student outcomes are increasing based upon the work that those people are doing, I don't see the issue with them doing that job remotely. When they need to be here, they are here. I've worked with Tristan and with Jeff, and I have had a great working experience with them. I have not heard anything that they have done to diminish their position or not do their job efficiently. So I absolutely support making sure that we hire the people who are going to execute our mission and help student outcomes. And if that means that they're remote jobs, then that means they're remote jobs. And if they're jobs that don't require to be in a school building every single day, then that is fine. I think the main thing is that we're achieving our outcomes. And if those people are helping us to achieve our outcomes, then I have no issue with that at all. Thanks.
Allie Olenberger.
Yes. So I recently had a conversation with a teacher, and she asked me, she goes, Allie, do you know how many people we have working for Fargo Public Schools that actually never are in front of students? And I said, I don't have numbers off the top of my head, but I would love to know that, because I think that as a school board, our job is to obviously write governance policies to ensure that our public education system is running effectively, efficiently, and that means empowering teachers to be able to educate children. And it takes obviously not just teachers to do that, right? We have other staff that are in front of kids and things like that as well that are making these kids' lives better. To me, one of the things that I think, in terms of remote employees, I personally work remote all of the time in a global organization, and I find it easy to be able to connect and to deliver value and impact across a global organization. So I don't have any struggles necessarily with remote work, but I would like to understand, what is our, student to employee ratio, if you will, in terms of time spent with our students. And also I would think that, taking a look at some of these larger salaried positions that are outside of our district, I question the overall economics of that as well. These are tax-funded positions that are now they're spending their salaries outside of our district, right? So this is money not going back into our local economy. So I think that that's a concern that I have in terms of these high salaried positions.
Thank you. Jason Nelson.
Thank you. Over the last 3 weeks, Fargo Public Schools has been in the news for a lot of many things, and this is one of them. And since I announced, I've been contacted by many teachers, other people in the community, and I've been talked to a lot at graduation parties over the last couple of weeks. And this has been one of the hot topics. It's clear our community expects administration to work in Fargo, not work remotely, and I support that. I think these administrative positions should be here in Fargo so that they can meet with the principals and others face to face.
Thank you. Ryan Dodd.
Yeah, so, right, COVID ushered in the new era of hybrid and remote work, and it's not going anywhere. I think if an employee can get their job done and be productive, more power to them. That said, I think certain positions are fine hybrid, and I think others are fine remote, but I think there's certain positions that I personally, I would like to see people be on site in the district. I'm going to sound like a broken record. Outdoor knocking again, encounter a lot of teachers, and this is something that's on their minds for sure. And I get it. Teachers are, they're in the trenches doing the hard work that is educating our students, and I can completely empathize with their point of view. I'm quite positive both the people in question and whoever else, I'm sure they're lovely and talented people and capable of doing their jobs in the capacity that they're doing from where they are, but I think it's hard to argue that it would be better if they were in town, for sure. The jobs that they would do would be better. It's always better to have more adults in schools. Things are just generally better when that happens, and that's kind of where I think about that issue.
Thank you. Nikkie Gullickson.
I don't have an issue with these folks having remote positions. Almost every company anymore has remote positions. I'd like to address the comment that they might only be here once or twice a month. That's possible. They come for several days, but they are on meetings all day long with their staff, with anybody who needs them. They accept phone calls. Like when we were having negotiations, discussions going on, Jeff was in town, and in the thick of that, he came and he watched many nights for many hours. So I think there's a misunderstanding that they're engaged very little, because I would say they are engaged quite a bit. Been in many meetings with both of them. Tristan's been here, done an amazing job. That is not a new position. That is a revamped, reworked position from someone who is no longer with us. I just want us to be cautious that this is, it's not a lot of money going out the door and we're getting nothing for it. These people are doing their jobs. They are working hard for us. And the reasons that they are where they are is, if I remember correctly, is medical reasons. It was care that they weren't able to secure here. And so that may change in the future. Maybe those people will eventually come here.
Thank you. Kristen Nelson.
So from an organizational perspective and a leadership perspective, I think there is a visibility issue as relates to these two positions in particular. I am also a remote employee. I'm not going to say that I don't support remote work. I've also been managed by remote leaders, however. And I do understand and deeply know the challenges of that. There just feels like a disconnect there. I did not necessarily feel that the support that I could receive from maybe the person who was HR in our company who lived across the country was as adequate as my personal manager who was in Fargo. That being said, as a leader, understanding folks who are remote, knowing that they're getting their work done, that's great. But when I hear that we are having communication issues, from teachers who are trying to reach out to that HR, to Jeff McKenna, who's the human capital person, and that's just really unsatisfying for them. And we shouldn't have those gaps if we are doing remote positions.
All right, thank you for that. Once again, we are at the bottom of the hour. Another good opportunity to take a break. Again, you've been listening to this live candidates debate. 9 candidates running for the Fargo School Board. I'm WDAY Midday News anchor Tom Tucker, along with my newsroom colleague Ty Schonert. It is great to have you listening, and it is great to have the candidates with us in studio tonight. Right now, a quick break and more questions after this.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
Hey guys, Dakota Tire's growing our sales team, and we're looking for someone with sales experience or tire industry experience. So if you're a tire tech and are a people person looking to advance, this might be for you. Dakota Tire has an established clientele and a fast-paced business. Commissions are great, so we won't hire just anyone. We need someone who understands the service of sales. So if that sounds like you, swing on by to speak with Kirk or check us out at dakotatirefargo.com.
Hey, this is Harper Coulter. You may have heard of my dad, DJ Coulter with American Family. It's almost time to get out the side-by-side and hit the trails. Helmet, check. Mud goggles, check. Insurance, check. Let's ride. DJCoulter.com.
Theraldson Ethanol invites you to trade in your job for a career. Just west of Castleton sits one of the nation's largest ethanol facilities, a 170 million gallon per year ethanol plant. Come join a work family of dedicated team members helping North Dakota lead the energy revolution. Pay starting at $75,000 to $80,000 per year, plus benefits, bonuses, incentives, and more. If your job is just a job, trade it in for a career at Theraldson Ethanol. Apply online right now at theraldsonethanol.com.
The Noble Hair Bourbon and Wine Bar on Cheyenne Street in downtown West Fargo is inviting you to an exclusive wine tasting dinner with savory beef Wellington, Monday, June 3rd, paired with the perfect wines. Tickets are limited and available on our website, Instagram, and Facebook. We'll feature 5 wine selections and cap it off with a mouth-watering dessert. The Noble Hair and Wine Bar on Cheyenne Street in downtown West Fargo, where nostalgia meets innovation in every sip.
Hey, this is McKenna Coulter. You may have heard of my dad, DJ Coulter, with American Family. He's finally letting me take over captain duties on the boat this summer. I can't wait to hit the water. It's a good thing he doesn't have to worry because he's got us covered. DJCoulter.com.
Balmoral Golf Course has been a family-owned area favorite for over 60 years. Cut through native oak in the heart of Lakes Country, Balmoral features beautiful tree-lined fairways and some of the best greens in the area. From a complete clubhouse and pro shop to a challenging 18 holes, the staff at Balmoral are always working to make your round more enjoyable. Call or book your tee time online today at golfbalmoral.com.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
If you've got a pull-behind trailer, this is for you. Boat or ATV, flatbed or job trailer, Dakota Trailer Service can handle them all. Dakota Trailer Service does DOT inspections and can fix anything we find. Tires, brakes and bearings, lights and wiring, axle alignment or replacement. Whatever you need, call today to set up your inspection or repairs. Dakota Trailer Service, 532-2604. That's 532-2604.
9 candidates, 4 open seats. This is the Fargo School Board Debate, brought to you by Dakota Tire and Dakota Trailer Service on WDAY Radio and The Flag.
And welcome back to this live candidates debate for 9 people running for the Fargo School Board. I'm Tom Tucker, along with my colleague Ty Schonert. It is great to have you listening tonight and also watching our live stream on our social media platforms, including Facebook. Time now for our next question, and Ty Schonert will be delivering that one.
Yes, I'll kick it off. So, District Superintendent Dr. Rupak Gandhi posted a message on the district's website last October talking about the use of AI in the classroom, saying in part the technology promises to, quote, revolutionize how we approach learning. What role, if any, should AI play in education, both in the classroom and in administration? Let's start off with Seth Holden.
I think, as with any other technology, cell phones, computers and internet, however long ago, these things aren't going to go anywhere. And I think that it's vital that we figure out how we're going to integrate these technologies that aren't going to go anywhere and how we best use them to our advantage to not only teach, but I think also prepare students for the uses of them. There are plenty of misinformation on the internet, and I think one thing that's vital that we teach students is how do you disseminate what is truth and what is not. And I think the same goes for AI. How you best utilize that as a tool. And rather than going to the dark side, if you want to say, or using it for nefarious purposes, I think it's important that we take time to acknowledge that technology like this is here to stay, and how best students can use it. I think it would be a great advantage for us to educate them and to prepare them for the future that they're going to have when they leave us. So thanks.
Thank you, Seth. Next up, we have Nikkie Gullickson.
I think those are all excellent points, Seth. As with anything, there's good and bad. There's good medicine, bad medicine, good technology, bad technology. If we don't embrace this and teach our kids how to use it responsibly, yeah, there's going to be issues. I know people are concerned because I've heard the questions about, well, what if my kid uses AI to do their homework? We have systems in place for that. And how do I know that? Because one of my own kids, a teacher reached out to me and said, I have some suspicions, and there is a system in place, and this teacher was able to point out all the spots that she felt needed some attention. So I don't want people thinking that their kids aren't going to learn, they're just going to ask the computer, those types of things. As with anything, we can learn to embrace it, we can learn to use it wisely in the right places at the right times.
Thank you for that answer. Next up, we have Allie Allenberger.
Well, I can speak at hours about AI, considering that I work for a technology company and I use AI on a daily basis. As a STEM girl myself, I think that having science and technology in our classrooms is vital. Majority of our companies, organizations that we're preparing these students for their futures do embrace technology and use technology day in and day out. AI is a tool just as a pencil is, right? You have to be able to ask the question the right way. You have to be able to ask it in a way that gives you the proper answer. And so teaching our students how to effectively utilize technology tools is vital. And I think that there is a ton of work being done by our major technology companies to ensure that there is safety and security and to prevent some of the things that we saw with like the launch of the internet, right? We talk about, the truth that's out there versus the truth that's not out there, and legislation and best practices that are being put into place to ensure that we do have truth in our technology out there. And so in terms of, my support of technology in the classrooms, absolutely 100%.
Thank you, Allie. Next up, we have Dawn Morgan.
As others have said here, AI is not going to go away. It's actually going to require an education for administration, for teachers, for students, for everyone. And I think there's a lot of controversy right now as to limiting AI or enhancing AI, or how to use it, how to control it. I think these will become policies that will be adapted in various industries. And just being in the art world myself, I get images daily, and people will pop up and say, oh, that's AI, because they can identify, what is the sixth finger or the missing eye or, whatever it is, But this is going to have to be a change for everybody. And so I'm sure that there are some of the teachers and some administrators who are just going to say, this is too much for me. I mean, and it is in a way, but it's going to require that we do a lot of adaptation. But it is a tool, and it's not going away, so we've got a lot of work to do.
Thank you, Dawn. Next up, we have Ryan Dodd.
Yeah, I'll be repeating a lot of what other people have already said. AI is 100% a tool, and it does need to be managed to ensure that kids are learning. We don't want to be skipping important steps in their education. We need to avoid situations where they're just using AI to write a paper. If we're not, as far as AI goes, if we're not figuring out already how we're going to manage it, I think we're already behind. And so I think we need to take huge steps to manage it. But like everybody else has already said to this point, it's not going anywhere. And but the advantages are that you can do a whole lot more with less. Can be used to teach kids how to build apps on computers and phones, and it shows kids how to think critically through prompting the program to do what it's capable of doing. If you ask a vague question for AI to give you something in return, you'll get a gray response. If you ask a nuanced question and give a great prompt, you'll get some incredibly useful information back. So.
Thank you for that. Next up, we have Kirsten Nelson.
So I think, with everything, we definitely need to start giving our kids a basis for what AI is, but media, internet, literacy should be something that that is also valued as an educational tool and an educational piece for kids as they're going through their public school experience. Like everybody said, AI is not going away. I do believe it can offer some really, really creative avenues for these kids to start using and developing their own systems and programs. And, we want to encourage, like Ellie said, girls in STEM. We love that. And so but they also do need to be taught what is fake, what are not so great research practices, what are standards that we should still be expecting them to achieve.
Thank you. Next up, we have Paul Moore.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to echo what everybody else has said. I mean, AI is here to stay. I just want to make sure that we don't lose how to learn, because one of the important things is I think the only thing I actually learned in college was how to learn. I mean, you get really frustrated in a class where you have to go through Calc 1 and they teach you these long different ways to figure out a formula. And the first thing that happens when you get back to Calc 2 is they give you the magic bullet. You're like, wait a minute, how come you didn't show me that up front? And I think AI is a lot like that. It basically, as long as we teach the students how to formulate the question correctly so that they, so that they're asking the right questions and they're getting the right answers back. A question came up about phones in class. How do you eliminate phones in class? Well, maybe the teachers have to start figuring out how do I use the phone in class? Since they're bringing it in anyway, how are we going to use it in order for the students to get to the right things? One of the things I want to emphasize, though, is also being careful. One of the teachers that I talked to, so it was just Teacher Appreciation Week, and they sent out a letter from Dr. Gandhi that said all these nice things about teachers. Well, and then somebody brought up that, well, there's a method that you can go through and check to see if it's generated by AI. And this came back as 100% generated by AI. So that person was very upset that AI was used instead of the personal touch.
Thank you for that. Next up, we have Jason Nelson.
Sure, I'm going to go down a different path than everyone else. I think it's an opportunity for us to help teachers. We are seeing a shrinking workforce across the country because people are having less kids every generation. We need to figure out how to help our teachers be more successful with less. And part of that is AI. They can utilize AI by developing their curriculum. And so we can take books, we can ask AI to generate tests of chapters and things like that that the teachers then can pull from, so they're not spending all of their time building this curriculum. So I think we need to look at it from a different perspective because, let's be honest, the high school kids and college kids are probably way ahead of us in AI already. So I think there's an opportunity to just help our workforce out by incorporating the right AI technology for them.
Thank you for that. And next up, we have John Campbell.
I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to echo a lot of what the positive things that have already been said. A couple of the things that I guess from a board perspective or a governance perspective is really giving the education of what AI is to those that maybe are older, taking the fear out of some of the things that are out there, the information about AI and the negative stories and things like that. Really setting a foundation for what AI will look like in our curriculum, and I'm sure that most of that has started. Again, learning taking what we learned from the internet and what we didn't learn, putting those action steps into play so students have safety. They have the critical thinking piece. Parents have the information of what AI actually looks like in the school and things like that, just to help move this along so that it can be an active part of our learning and our education for our students.
Thank you, John. And now I'll be handing the microphone back over to Tom Tucker.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Evidence-based grading is being implemented in grades 6 through 12. Several teachers have voiced concerns about evidence-based grading, saying it's not an accurate grading system, that the approach decreases student accountability, and that it's a system that promotes mediocrity. As a potential school board member, are you aware of these teacher concerns? And if so, How do you plan to address those concerns? Jason Nelson.
I'll be 100% honest. I don't understand what that grading scale is, and so it'd be something I'd dive more into to better understand, and then reach out to the teachers. If that's their feedback, they're the ones that are dealing with it day to day and understand whether the system works or not. And so as a board member, they're assigned to different schools across the district. I would be involved with not only the administration at those schools, but the teachers to better understand what those concerns are. So if a change needs to be made, I can elevate that concern to the superintendent.
Kind of at its most basic description, evidence-based grading is moving away from a traditional letter grading system, A through F, to a grading system which I believe awards a 1 through 4 for evaluating and assessing and recording student performance. Don Morgan, how about you for this question?
Yeah, I don't know too much about it, but I do know that there usually is a motive for whatever is being investigated. And I'd like to know from what perspective this measurement would be coming from. Students come with all kinds of different skills. What is it actually measuring? To me, that would be an important question, something that I don't know much about, but in a way it seems to me like it's watering it down. That, there's some schools that have pass-fail. And to me, that kind of removes a lot of the motivation for students to actually really try to do a good job and for their parents to encourage them to work for the grades. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I think there is some sense of identification with students in terms of what kind of grades they can earn. So until I know more, that's all I can say.
Thank you. Paul Moorer.
I guess I'm going to go with the first two answers a little bit. Is I'm not truly familiar with the evidence-based grading. One of the things that was kind of in fashion, shall we say, for grading when my kids were was the proficient, the partially proficient, the advanced, and it brought up a lot of questions about, okay, what does partially proficient mean? I mean, sometimes it meant you're not doing well enough. Sometimes it meant you just haven't gotten to that part yet. Don't worry about it. And as a parent, I kind of want to know, what have we learned, what have we not learned, and how well is my child doing against that? And sometimes changing the grading method is leaving me as a concerned parent, kind of, in a little bit of a gray area because I don't know how to possibly guide my student in order to get them in the right spot. I mean, I'll fully admit that I need to go out there and learn more about how it works and how it works in the, so talking to teachers and, like it was said, understanding their concerns about the grading system so that it can be, rolled up into, a possibly even, much better system.
Thank you. Nikkie Gullickson.
Thank you. Again, the shift has been interesting as people move away from what they're used to, the A through F to the 1 through 3. But I believe that the purpose behind it is for those kids to be able to really truly demonstrate what they really truly can and can't do. And I know the teachers don't love it. Administration is aware that it's not loved, but it is the direction we're heading. I believe it is a national trend.
Thank you. Ryan Dodd.
Yeah, time for me to sound like a broken record again, but I was informed in a 20-minute conversation with a teacher that I found outdoor knocking, and yeah, it was a huge pain point. This is largely what he talked about. He said there's a use for the A through F system because they still need to report GPA to colleges when kids move onward. There's a lack of integration between an interface that's employing 1 through 4 to demonstrate proficiencies, but they still have to enter a grade, and they're leaving it up to department teachers to figure out what a 4 in one standard of education means, plus a couple of 2s and a 3. They're being left to fend for themselves to try and figure out, well, what does that mean in a grade? and Power School and this other interface don't seem to hook up really well. So it's the other side of the pain point is now they have another task to do. So I think it's just another level of frustration. There needs to be some training, maybe. There needs to be some more communication on how this might work. I also know that this teacher mentioned that there was an immense amount of frustration with students who felt I'm a 3 or a 2, which is not quite proficient, but they felt they grasped everything that the class was asking them to perform. But there's no incremental steps in between in this current system, and maybe that'll change. But there's frustration on the students' part too.
John Campbell.
So, a little bit of echoing the same. Not 100% sure, but evidence-based practices is a experience that I have with some of the jobs that I've had and different things like that. Evidence-based grading, to me, takes more of the senses. It's to have the teacher looking throughout the classroom period, the testing, the pre-testing, the pop quiz, taking different ways to decide or disseminate if this person is got a grasp of the content that is being taught. It is different than just taking a percentage grade on a test or a percentage grade on a pop quiz. I lean into this thinking because it allows the teacher to be an investigator. It allows to have that open communication. You can test while talking. You can ask a question and the kid really knows it but doesn't know how to put it on paper, different things like that. So it's really incorporating the ability and the creativity of the teacher and their strengths. They're very good at investigating. They know the kids that need work. They know the kids that have got it and things like that. They can really fluctuate and structure their class and their content to make sure that somebody that is not as proficient is equaled up or moving up, along with keeping the proficient kids moving forward in the next piece. But to me, evidence-based practices or evidence-based grading is utilizing all the skills and all the senses to grade that individual.
Thank you. Seth Holden.
I have heard some concerns from some teachers and from some parents about this system. As a board who operates under a policy governance model, this is purely operational. However, I do understand that some system changes have growing pains and take time to be established and to be effective. As a board member, I guess I would encourage taking that time to see, to see the effectiveness of the system, and then ultimately ask the question: is going to this system helping us achieve higher student outcomes? And if the answer to that is yes, then I think we just continue to work with it, give the teachers the support they need or any training to help them to move to this system. But I think ultimately, as a board, we have to look at does this increase student outcomes? And if the answer then is no, then maybe we have to look at something different or try something different. But I think for right now, we give it some time and see how things work out. So thanks.
Thank you. Allie Ohlenberger.
Yes. So I've had many conversations with teachers around evidence-based grading. One of them was a health teacher, and he was walking me through. He's like, okay, so we all sat down as a department, and we tried to figure out, like, this is what a 2 means, and this is what a 3 means, and this is what a 4 means. And he's like, so basically we were just rewriting everything that used to be letter grades into these 1 through 4 systems. And he's like, it just doesn't make any sense. I think what the biggest thing that I take away from people's lack of faith in the evidence-based grading system is that it's not clear, right? So you as a parent can't log into Power School, Canvas, whatever technology grade level you're in, and check to see what's going on, right? So as a parent, you can't be engaged to figure out, like, hey, this is where my kid maybe needs some help at home or needs some additional encouragement, versus, again, you get all the way down to the end of the school year, and then there's nothing left to be done in terms of, like, hey, how can we help these kids grow or actually meet the proficiency requirements, because there's a lack of transparency in the overall grading system. To me, I personally think that there's good pieces of it as well. Paul did a really great job of actually highlighting those components, because we do have kids that have test anxiety, all of these different things where, like, just a single test shouldn't make up your overall,
educational knowledge, right? I mean, we can all bomb a test, we can all have a bad day. So I think that there should be a combination of both, right? So taking into consideration, here's the test, here's the pre-test, here's the post-test, how did we learn, how did we grow, and then proficiencies based upon outcomes of actual percentages.
Thank you. Kristen Nelson.
So as a parent of a 5th grader, I dive into my daughter's progress report every quarter as they come out. And on that progress report, it does have the definitions of what each number is and what each assigned rating, I guess, is. To me, I believe looking at what is on her progress report gives me more of an idea of how she's progressed through the school year. Looking at the fall and then looking at the winter. I do believe, like John said, it is a capture of all the evidence from their school experience for that year. If there is inconsistency or if there is questions, they do need to engage with the teacher. How can my child move from a 2.5 to a 3, and show proficiency in there? So I don't necessarily agree with the idea that it makes the grading system more muddy. There is that engagement piece on the responsibility of that parent. Systems are hard to turn over, like everybody else mentioned, and there are growing pains. I've been a part of a number of system turnovers in my career, and they're ugly. But as people get used to it and get comfortable, I think it will be a good place to go.
And thank you. All right, I think we are going to take another question here before the break. And with this, we're just going to ask you to give a simple yes or no answer. And the question is this. One of the Republican candidates running for North Dakota Superintendent of Public Instruction says if elected, he would push to have the 10 Commandments put back in the state's public school classrooms. Do you support this idea or oppose having the 10 Commandments in classrooms in North Dakota, in the district's public schools? Ryan Dodd, you're first with this one. Yes or no?
I don't support 10 Commandments in schools. I'm sorry, that's not a one-word answer, but
And that's okay. No worries. Again, the question is, do you support having the 10 Commandments posted in the district's classrooms? Kristen Nelson, yes or no?
Hard no.
John Campbell?
No.
Don Morgan?
No.
Seth Holden?
Absolutely not.
Nikkie Gullickson?
No.
Allie Ohlenberger?
No.
Paul Maurer?
Maybe. I think it's a more complicated question.
You can't answer yes or no?
No.
Okay.
To that question.
I'm sorry?
Can I? You
No.
said,
Just
the
yes.
answer to your question was no, I can't give a more specific answer.
Okay, thank you. Jason Nelson?
I guess the voters will speak for the state, but I say no.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are at the top of the hour. Time now for another break. You have been listening to this continuing live debate featuring 9 candidates running for the Fargo Public School Board. I'm Tom Tucker, along with my colleague Ty Schonert. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more questions, at least one more question, and then closing statements coming up in the next segment. We'll be right back after this.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
Hey guys, Dakota Tire's growing our sales team, and we're looking for someone with sales experience or tire industry experience. So if you're a tire tech and are a people person looking to advance, this might be for you. Dakota Tire has an established clientele and a fast-paced business. Commissions are great, so we won't hire just anyone. We need someone who understands the service of sales. So if that sounds like you, swing on by to speak with Kirk or check us out at dakotatirefargo.com.
Hi, my name is Justina, and I am a junior at Fargo North. I moved here with my parents at an early age, and I plan to study business in college. The reason that I'm so hopeful about my future is Legacy Children's Foundation. I want to thank the amazing donors who are complete strangers to me. I'm amazed by the generosity. Because of them, Legacy youth receive resources and positive relationships to become educated leaders. Find out more at legacychildrensfoundation.com.
A house is made with different floors, and some with old windows and doors.
North Dakota weather can be rough. That's why we have windows and doors that are tough.
Day or night, cold or hot, new windows and doors can save you a lot.
Wind or hail, snow or rain, high energy bills can sure be a pain.
Now, I'm not a poet. Trust me, Andrew let me know it.
When it comes to windows and doors, we don't sell any dinosaurs. I'm Andrew, the manager of the window and door store in Fargo.
And I'm Jaden. Hey, if you're new to the Fargo area, and if you have a home that needs new windows or doors, we would love to show you why so many people choose the window and door store for replacement windows and doors.
We have windows and doors for any style of home, and you get a lifetime guarantee on the installation as long as you own the home.
You can ask us one question or a zillion questions, but we never pressure people to buy. If you're really busy, give us a ring, and one of our window and door store gurus will meet with you at your home when it works best for you.
701-205-0110, the window and door store in Fargo.
Better windows, better doors.
Tearing up yards and jackhammering floors used to be the only way plumbers could repair damaged pipes. Not anymore. With New Flow, a division of H.A. Thompson & Sons, your pipes can be fixed permanently without the mess and at a fraction of the cost. Using existing access to pipes, entry and exit points, New Flow cleans out the pipe, then lines it with an epoxy liner, creating a new pipe inside the old one. No digging, no destruction. Call New Flow and save thousands. New Flow of North Dakota, a division of H.A. Thompson & Sons. PetroServe USA has some sweet specials all month long. Hershey Standard candy bars are only 99 cents. Kellogg's Pop-Tarts 2 for $1. Stock up on Nestle 28 packs of water for only $4.69. Ice Mountain 1 liter bottles, only 79 cents. Buy 2 12-ounce cans of Red Bull, you'll get another free, and the 8-ounce 4-pack is only $7.99. Old Trapper Jerky, just $5.99 for the 4-ounce bag, too. These specials and many more, all month long at a PetroServe USA near you.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
Hey guys, Dakota Tire's growing our sales team, and we're looking for someone with sales experience or tire industry experience. So if you're a tire tech and are a people person looking to advance, this might be for you. Dakota Tire has an established clientele and a fast-paced business. Commissions are great, so we won't hire just anyone. We need someone who understands the service of sales. So if that sounds like you, swing on by to speak with Kirk or check us out at dakotatirefargo.com.
9 candidates, 4 open seats. This is the Fargo School Board Debate, brought to you by Dakota Tire and Dakota Trailer Service on WDAY Radio and The Flag.
All right, you are listening to AM 970 WDAY Fargo and AM 1100 WZFG Dilworth. I'm Tom Tucker, along with my colleague Ty Schonert, WDAY Radio News, hosting and moderating a live debate for the 9 candidates running for Fargo Public School Board. We're also streaming live on our social media platforms. This will be our final segment here tonight. We'll have one question asked by Ty Schonert, and then we will finish the evening with closing statements. Ty, go ahead.
Yes, so what should be expected of school board members, especially during board meetings when it comes to listening to and responding to opinions of district residents? Also, would you support changes to the format of board meetings to allow for more public input and responses from board members and staff? We'll start with Ryan Dodd.
So yeah, I've seen a couple of board meetings, well, more than a couple, and yeah, the format on the front end, right? The public comes in, gives you, their thoughts on some issues, some thoughts on what they think the district can do to be accountable to the people, and yeah, I want to say I'm mixed on this, mostly because I think being on the spot is a difficult place to be. I think I would like to see a system where the board does respond, but gets to kind of digest the thoughts that are coming their way. I think on the spot it's sort of tough, but yeah, I think I would like to see a world where they're asking questions, they're giving their thoughts, and they get a somewhat prompt response. So a change to the format of the board meeting to really give the people who are there a voice instead of just hearing and largely dismissing. I could see a world where like that's something I think I'd really like to see. Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. Next we go to Seth Holden.
I'd say there's two separate pieces to this. The first one, I think dialogue and discussion between board members should always remain civil and regardless of viewpoints differing or the same. We always show respect to one another during those meetings. I think when it comes to the public comment section of our meetings, Fargo Public Schools actually has probably one of the most liberal policies. We do not put a limit on how many people can speak. We do not put a criteria on what you can say. I know some districts make sure that whatever your comments are have to be what's on the agenda for the evening. We do not do that. I thoroughly enjoy our public comment section, and I would not support anything that changes or restricts public input during our meetings.
Thank you, Seth. We'll now head over to Jason Nelson.
Sure. In watching the board meetings, what I've seen is our citizens telling the board their opinion and no back and forth. And I would like to see more communication going back and forth. As a board member, obviously I'd be available to the residents of Fargo for input and things like that. But at the board meetings, I'd like to see something implemented where once the agenda is made public, people can look at that, and the things they bring forward, they can give us advance notice on. So there's at least some back and forth and conversation. Because right now, all that happens is people get up, tell you what they're thinking, and they leave not knowing anything more than what they came with. That's not a good way to communicate with our public. So I'd like to see a better format implemented. And the decorum between board members goes without saying. So.
Thank you, Jason. We now listen to Ali Ullenberger.
Yes, so I've personally actually spoken at a school board meeting before, and let me tell you, it's super intimidating. Well, I know that it's like, you can go up there and they're going to listen to what you have to say, but that's really truly what it is. They listen to what you have to say, and then you walk away, and you are restricted in terms of time, right? There is a timer, and they do restrict the number of people that can speak, and you have to sign up beforehand. Super intimidating, and it's not a great way for somebody, especially those of us here in this Midwestern culture that are like non-confrontational. You don't want to bring up a concern that you have in a super public format like that. So number one, I think that there does need to be a dialogue and a way for constituents to get their questions answered. I think that outside of a board meeting, right, because we don't want to have board meetings that go on for like 20 hours, right? I think that there needs to be maybe some other avenues that are also explored. We have a communications committee within the school board that we could look at, and how can we engage and have open dialogue and discussions with constituents to bring issues forward in a less intimidating format. Obviously, you can email the board members. Likely at times you don't actually get responses back. I would like to see some of those things being addressed in terms of at least acknowledgement of emails sent and or responses to questions that constituents have.
Awesome, thank you, Ali. Next up we have John Campbell.
This is a really good question, and so I'm gonna go back to a question back about administration and things like that, and how do we set the culture? So looking at having ways for people to have voice and choice, I get it, they get to speak, and there's not a lot of back and forth. Being able to make something actionable for that comment from somebody would be a nice thing. Not necessarily at that meeting, because we are, it's a governance board. There needs to be some discussion, but having whether those action items go to the communication piece or they're put on the next agenda to be addressed and things like that. Having a way for people to know that within a certain amount of time that question has been reviewed, or there's a statement back out to the from the board based on that. Otherwise, I feel like the modeling of changing culture really comes from the top. And so opening up that communication also means that the board is looking for ways to continue to open up communication dialogue and things like that. That would be my suggestion, having a way for those action items that a citizen brings, they're addressed within, whether it's an email or communication, but within a fair amount of time, so that their brain and their answer, or they can get an answer to their question and their brain isn't spinning. So thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Paul Moore.
An interesting topic, because I've spent a lot of time recently at school board meetings. I guess the thing I want to emphasize most is that as the school board members, you are the elected representatives of the people who voted for you. And so if somebody like that comes, and it's 3 minutes, and you've got a list of things you want to get through, and it flies by so fast. But I want to say that it's not easy. I mean, I know some of the questions I ask is pretty tough, but what I would really like, though, is in the past, since we've kind of adjusted the way the rules work, I don't get any response. Zero. I mean, I don't expect the school board members to necessarily know everything. That's not the point. But to jot down the question and then at some point get back to the person who asked it and say, hey, I'm not even the right one to answer your question, but if you go to this person right here and ask them, that would be awesome. I mean, just getting that much response would be great. I just, being respectful to each other. I mean, the school board can be respectful to each other. I mean, praise in public, criticize in private. So when you're presenting the face of the school board, you agree in a civil way. You disagree in a civil way. But you also try to, make sure that everybody gets their words across.
Thank you, Paul. Next up, we have Kirsten Nelson.
I do support the public comment. It is a way to make yourself heard. It is the right of the people to be able to speak to their elected officials. As somebody who sits on a commission who hears public comment, I value the citizens that come forward in our public comment sessions. However, being at the board meetings, there is a tendency of folks to ask questions not necessarily in a good faith effort. And I believe if there was a back and forth or if there was some sort of response, that might delve into a negative space, something that isn't going to bring up any solutions to any problems. We need to make sure that the board meetings remain professional and remain in an area that creativity and solutions can come forward. So every leader that I've ever talked to has always said, if you do have a complaint, let's bring a solution forward. So using that forum to bring solutions to maybe what they see as a problem is a better use of that time, and having conversations about policy or anything else should be held with a phone call or an email.
Thank you, Kristen. And next up, we have Nikkie Gullickson.
Thank you. I would echo what Kristen just shared. Sometimes it's not productive for both parties to engage in back and forth. Having said that, under our governance committee, it is a board meeting held in the public. According to Century Code, we do not have to allow public comment, but we want to hear from people. And it's not that it falls on deaf ears, but it doesn't provide a good opportunity. It's not an appropriate time to have a back and forth. Answers can be given, they can be written. I know many of us have taken phone calls, have taken emails. So I guess with regard to your question, would you change the format? No, that isn't something we're really able to do. I mean, the one thing that we could do would be to push out public comment, and nobody wants to do that. We all want to hear that. I would encourage people to reach out to board members. Some people are going to say we don't get answers from board members. That might be because that question's been asked and answered several times or by somebody else. If you truly want to have a dialogue, reach out to somebody with a text, with a phone call, and say, hey, can we get together? Can we have coffee? If you see somebody at the grocery store, say, hey, can I talk to you about this? I've talked to many, many people like that in Costco and at the bank and everything else. So it isn't that we don't want to hear, but I think it's important to keep in mind that as much as we want to hear from the public, that is the time for our board meeting. And according to Century Code, we need to have that in the public. So it's not a great time for back and forth.
And next we have Dawn Morgan.
Well, the format is something that should remain the same. It's pretty much the same throughout all kinds of different agencies. I think very strongly that there's an agenda for the meeting, and the items that are brought up for the agenda or discussion have been thought through. And so the board members have an opportunity to respond. And I think, too, the public who wants to speak should come forward and speak about those particular issues. They should be given enough time, but they also need to be limited, because some people will get up and talk for half an hour if you give them an opportunity. One of the things that I've seen happen that's been extremely helpful is more public meetings. If there's an issue that's coming up and it's of concern to many people, it's an appropriate time to have a public meeting and make sure that everybody knows about it. One of the things I could say about the meetings regarding the school placements is, even though I live in the neighborhood, I didn't get an invitation. It was only to the parents of the students. So what I'm saying is everybody deserves to be heard. And the opportunity to actually develop your thoughts is another thing. So I get a lot of calls from people that, say, who should I talk to find this out? And I usually know who it is. So I send them that direction, and they can get more information and be better informed when they contact the district.
Thank you, Dawn. I'll be handing the microphone back for the last time to my colleague, Tom Tucker.
All right. Time now for closing statements. So thanks to all of you for answering the questions as you did. It was all very interesting and compelling and enlightening to hear your answers, so thank you for that. Again, now we go to closing statements, and Ali Ohlenberger is at the top of the list for this round.
All right. Well, thank you for this enlightening 2.5 hours this evening. This has been wonderful. I feel like, most of us have been checking our phones throughout this entire time this evening. So there's clearly people out there listening to what we all have to say, which is fantastic. We are all running for a public office and making big decisions within our community. I'm Ali Ohlenberger. I'm a veteran, I'm a mom, and I'm a problem solver. I raised my right hand to serve our country, and I'm doing the same thing to serve public education, our children, and our educators. I'm asking for your vote on June 11th. I'm willing to be a public servant. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to engage, collaborate, and bring creative solutions forward to discuss the issues that we discussed here tonight. There's many things that I want to continue to further discuss. I'm open for a phone call, a cup of coffee, an email, and I promise you I won't answer your email with AI. So thank you all again for this opportunity this evening. Feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. Check out my website. Reach me on Facebook. It's Ali, 4 EDU. And please show up to vote on June 11th.
Thank you. Kristen Nelson.
Thank you again, WDY, for hosting this evening. I hope I have been able to provide information, insight, and ideas about who I am as a person and as a candidate for Fargo Public School Board. I'm excited about the challenge of working on the school board, and I'm ready to take it on. My credentials and my experience make me the best candidate for this job, and if you put your vote and trust in me, you will not be disappointed. My social media is Kristen for FPS on Facebook, and that is also my website. Reach out anytime.
Thank you. Seth Holden.
Yeah, thank you, WDAY. Thank for hosting this. Once again, I'd like to thank our community for its continued support for our district and for education. It truly has been the privilege and honor of my life to serve the district and the city for the past 4 years. just so much exciting work has been done, and there's so much exciting work coming up. I love the work, and I would be thrilled to continue on with it. One of the things I really value, I think, when it comes to our governing bodies is a healthy balance between fresh ideas and experience. And I think right now our community has the ability to and the opportunity to embrace both of those ideas. And I do have the experience that can help get some of this work done that's so important to our community, our teachers, and our students. So I would wish for your vote and hope for your vote, and I'd be very humbled to serve Fargo Public Schools again. And I also would just like to stress how important our local elections are. So make sure that you guys all go out and vote June 11th and then also again in November. So thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you. Ryan Dodd.
Yeah, like everybody else here, I believe in the power of a public education. I believe it's unique. Sorry. Because it gives every child, regardless of their station in life, like an opportunity to transform their life. And while we aren't necessarily perfect in the pursuit of this ideal, I believe we'll get closer when we simply communicate and listen to our teachers and give them what they tell us that they need. My experience as a former teacher, I think, will give a useful perspective to the board. My job in real estate demands that I be a great listener and that I negotiate fairly with all parties. I'm open-minded and I promise to make decisions that prioritize teachers and students. Our educators and students deserve a school board that puts them first. Their success benefits our community. Fargo is just way better when our schools are better. And public education is a worthy investment. And I think a good place to start is, June 11th. It's an important election. Get out and vote, please, and thank you.
Thank you. Jason Nelson.
Thanks again to the Flag and WDAY for hosting this and the 8 other candidates for putting their name on the ballot. I'd like to start out with, I graduated from NDSU, and my wife and I chose to remain in Fargo because it's a wonderful community. I was blessed with a 16-year career with the Fargo Police Department, where I became intimately involved with the city of Fargo and made a lot of lifetime connections. I've transitioned to another job where I continue to grow and meet more people. I bring a lot of assets to the board as far as knowing the right people, bringing the right people to the table to resolve issues and work through problems. Part of my past career, I got to work with a lot of teachers and educators across our system, and they're looking for some changes, and we need to listen to them. We need to put them first and foremost in our students. So just happy to be part of this group that's running, and please get out June 11th and vote.
Thank you. Paul Moorer.
Yes, I want to echo my thanks for WDAY and the Flag for hosting this. It's always very enlightening to hear what the questions are and give the answers. Right up front, I want to say that I have a website. It's called Expect More. The more is spelled MOHROR. If you go out there, it has links to my Facebook page. And I guess I just want to say, I'm a parent, or I was. I still am a parent. They're not in high school anymore or anything. But I guess I want to say I want to put my money where my mouth is and say I think communication is most important. And I know some of my friends are listening online, and it's probably going to be very disappointing for them. But I got some questions from a person who I would say is on the other side of the aisle. And they're like, don't answer that one. And I'm like, look, if I'm not going to be the one who's willing to listen to what other people have to say and answer their questions in a thoughtful way, then maybe I shouldn't be running. So, I sat and I thoughtfully, crafted my answers to the questions. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm saying, look, this is my answers, and this is like them, don't like them. That's just what you're going to get. What you get, okay? Like the thing about the 10 Commandments. It's a complicated question, but if you want to find out a longer answer, I'll put it on my Facebook, and then anybody who wants to can come out and take a look at it. Thank you.
And thank you. Nikkie Gullickson.
I'd like to say thank you to the voters for being interested and engaged enough to be attending tonight and listening to what all we have to say. I'd also like to extend my thanks to the Flag and WDAY for hosting us. I'm Nikkie Gullickson, and I would be honored to earn your vote on June 11th. Any questions, please call me. I'd be happy to have a cup of coffee and talk our way through it. Thank you.
Thank you. John Campbell.
Thank you, Flag and WDAY, for having us. Thank you to those that are listening to understand more about the candidates and myself. I just wanted to put a plug in that I've been in the community for 25 years plus, working whether it's in social services, education, a nonprofit or for-profit. And one of the things that all of those experiences have given me is the ability to serve others. And that's what I'm looking for, is to serve with empathy, with equity, with collaboration, with inclusion. June 11th is really important to all of us. It's important to all of us because of our students in this community. And I think it's important that that we speak student first, teacher engaged, collaborative language as we move through the next challenges of the next 2 to 4 years and beyond, and have that vision. So June 11th, I would love to earn your vote. My name is John Campbell. Again, my Facebook page is John Campbell for Fargo Public Schools. And I appreciate this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Morgan.
Thanks to everyone who's engaged, and thank you to the students too, and their parents, and to the media coverage that we get. And it's really important that education be the best possible. And always, no matter what it is you're doing, it's a process. Besides that, the world continues to change, and so we need to adapt. One of the things that they're saying now about students and everybody else is we need to learn how to have better social skills so that we can actually speak to one another and get along. Because if you've got people battling each other one side to the other, not much is going to happen. So that's not a positive attitude. I think that I can, because I've really been engaged with education my whole life, and I've had a lot of civic engagement, I think I could bring a lot to the board. And I know so many people, it's just a joy to talk to people no matter what perspective they have. So I would love the engagement, and I could learn a lot, and I would certainly be in support of the teachers and all of the students to make Fargo the best possible school system in the state.
All right, thank you. Ty, any thoughts in closing?
Lots of important topics were discussed tonight, and I appreciate all of you for your thoughtful answers that you had. Lots of engaging things we didn't even get to that I'm sure you're hearing a lot from the voters out there as well. To the listeners, there's going to be a lot of discussion happening post this discussion. The post-debate show is happening immediately after our coverage here. So thank you for tuning in as well, and I hope all of you out there go out there to vote on June 11th.
All right. And thanks to all of you candidates for participating tonight. Thanks to those of you who are already serving the district, and thanks to the rest of you who are willing to step up and serve as well. As a parent and a taxpayer, I too care very deeply and passionately about all these topics that we're discussing tonight. So thank you for that. Again, you've been listening to WDAY AM 970 and the Flag AM 1100, our debate featuring the 9 candidates running for a Fargo School Board. Thanks so much for listening tonight and for following along online as well. Steve Hallstrom and Scott Hennen are up next, simulcasting on both stations, the Flag and WDAY. They're ready to take your questions via email, your comments as well via email and phone. That's it from the studio. Thanks so much for listening, and have a terrific night.
You heard from the candidates. Now we want to hear from you. The Fargo School Board Post-Debate Show begins in moments. Brought to you by Dakota Tire and Dakota Trailer Service.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
If you you've got a pull-behind trailer, this is for you. Boat or ATV, flatbed or job trailer, Dakota Trailer Service can handle them all. Dakota Trailer Service does DOT inspections and can fix anything we find. Tires, brakes and bearings, lights and wiring, axle alignment or replacement. Whatever you need, call today to set up your inspection or repairs. Dakota Trailer Service, 532-2604. That's 532-2604.
Hi, Trevor Ockery, owner of Buffalo River Sales. We are proud to announce our new location at 2801 Main Avenue in Fargo. To celebrate, we are offering up to $350 off the Hustler Raptor family of mowers, featuring all fabricated frames and decks with sizes from 42 to 60 inches and powered by Kawasaki V-twin motors. Along with our great pricing, we are offering 0% financing for up to 48 months on all Hustler turf equipment. Come check us out at our new location at 2801 Main Avenue in Fargo or online at buffaloriversales.com.
This is Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach. Minnesota has given my family and me so much over the years. I am committed to giving right back. One of the ways I can serve you is through my Constituent Services Program. Our team has closed more than 1,500 cases, helping families navigate Social Security and VA, renew their passports, and resolve IRS issues. If you need help, visit fishbach.house.gov.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
It's a mega huge 30-year anniversary blowout at Comfort King Manufacturing.
Hey, what are you doing? You know Comfort King doesn't play that fake sale game. For 30 years, we've simply offered our everyday factory direct pricing on the world's best handcrafted mattresses built right here. No gimmicks, just the truth.
Well, we should do something to celebrate.
That's why for the month of May, every mattress purchase gets you a free bundle pack. That's sheets, mattress protector, and pillows for free.
Cool.
This month only, get a free bundle pack at Comfort King.
At ATI Fargo, they understand how much you like your Duramax. They also know that your Duramax might be losing coolant or might have a check engine light come on for glow plugs. You shouldn't have to worry about your engine blowing a head gasket like it's a 6.0 Power Stroke. Come on, you've got better things to do. So bring it to ATI Fargo. They know Duramax, Power Stroke, and Cummins inside and out. And they have solid solutions for your emissions issues. Get your light-duty diesel pickup to ATI Fargo, where they have a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty on new parts. That's ATI Fargo.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
Hey guys, Dakota Tire's growing our sales team, and we're looking for someone with sales experience or tire industry experience. So if you're a tire tech and are a people person looking to advance, this might be for you. Dakota Tire has an established clientele and a fast-paced business. Commissions are great, so we won't hire just anyone. We need someone who understands the service of sales. So if that sounds like you, swing on by to speak with Kirk or check us out at dakotatirefargo.com.
It's a mega huge 30-year anniversary blowout at Comfort King Manufacturing.
Hey, what are you doing? You know Comfort King doesn't play that fake sale game. For 30 years, we've simply offered our everyday factory direct pricing on the world's best handcrafted mattresses built right here. No gimmicks, just the truth.
Well, we should do something to celebrate.
That's why for the month of May, every mattress purchase gets you a free bundle pack. That's sheets, mattress protector, and pillows for free.
Cool.
This month only, get a free bundle pack at Comfort King.
A house is made with different floors, and some with old windows and doors.
North Dakota weather can be rough. That's why we have windows and doors that are tough.
Day or night, cold or hot, new windows and doors can save you a lot.
Wind or hail, snow or rain, high energy bills can sure be a pain.
Now, I'm not a poet. Trust me, Andrew let me know it.
When it comes to windows and doors, we don't sell any dinosaurs. I'm Andrew, the manager of the Window and Door Store in Fargo.
And I'm Jaden. Hey, if you're new to the Fargo area, and if you have a home that needs new windows or doors, we would love to show you why so many people choose the Window and Door Store for replacement windows and doors.
We have windows and doors for any style of home, and you get a lifetime guarantee on the installation as long as you own the home.
You can ask us one question or a zillion questions, but we never pressure people to buy. If you're really busy, give us a ring, and one of our Window and Door Store gurus will meet with you at your home when it works best for you.
701-205-0110, the Window and Door Store in Fargo.
Better windows, better doors.
The candidates have spoken. The Fargo School Board Post-Debate Show starts now. Brought to you by Dakota Tire and Dakota Trailer Service on WDAY Radio and The Flag.
The candidates have spoken, and now it's your chance to sound off on what you just heard on WDAY and The Flag. Steve Hallstrom here, Scott Hennen alongside. And we are here until the top of the hour, and we would like to know your thoughts. Who won the debate? Who performed well? What did you leave wanting more of? Who had the line of the night? Who had the argument of the night? Who fell and stubbed their toe? Whatever your thoughts are, we would love to hear from you here on this post-debate show. Scotty, it's hard to always know how to assess these things because you can say, let's talk about the candidates that performed best under the spotlight, who had the best answers, who said the things that we personally wanted to hear. There's a lot of ways to measure this. I do think that we had a good variety of questions. We got questions about education and teaching. We got questions about administration. We had questions about finance. We had the social issues. There was a little bit of everything there. I thought Tom and Ty did a nice job of mixing in the questions. What are your overall thoughts on what you heard tonight?
Well, yeah, I agree. A lot of good information and, a solid 2+ hours there for folks to be able to hear directly from the candidates and hear their hear the answers to the questions and the nuances and all the rest. Big question I had coming in to this is basically what role do parents play in the education of their students? And what level of respect is there from the school board members and the candidates for school board towards parents? And I think the best way to assess that question was probably on the question of whether or not a state law that says if a student is struggling with gender issues, you notify the parent. That's the law in North Dakota. And the question was put forward to all of the candidates tonight. Are you for that law? Or do you agree with the superintendent who has decided to disregard the law? And I was appalled that other than the three people, Allie Ohlenberger and Paul Moore and Jason Nelson, taking issue with it and talking about parents, that the others, 6 out of the 9, literally didn't mention the parents. So that was a big one for me tonight.
When we're talking about a school board debate, my answer is always going to be, tell me about how you're going to teach the kids and get performance from the kids more than anything else. Now, as an individual, as whatever my beliefs and my personal philosophies are, I still want my schools to be a place where, first and foremost, they teach my kid how to think, how to learn, how to accomplish, how to be smarter when they come out of the school. So in that respect, I felt the most important question was
proficiency.
How are we doing on the proficiency?
Yeah.
And it was the first question that came up, and maybe everybody was just kind of getting their feet underneath them, but I was really disappointed in the answers we got as a whole to that question. I didn't hear anybody bring any answers or prescriptions or philosophies or we need to look more seriously at this or that. With a couple exceptions. Allie Ohlenberger had something about we have to talk about how we're allocating the resources there. Chris and Nelson talk about maybe we need to do more pre-K and that kind of thing. But for the kids that are sitting in 6th grade right now, how do we help them learn better? How do we help them understand their world better? How do we help them think critically better? And so in that respect, I just heard a lot of people kind of restating the question. And maybe I didn't hear something somebody said, and that's not fair to everybody. But I heard some talk about your home environment matters, and there's kids with challenges, and teachers aren't the problem. I wanted somebody to say, I think we need to take a new look at how we test, or we need to take a new look at how we teach, or we need to do more experimentation, hands-on learning, or something like that, because it was pointed out the kids learn differently, and that's 100% right. So let's talk a little bit more about that. I happen to be a believer. I happen to be a conservative, but when I send my kids to school, I don't necessarily need the school doing that work for my kids. I want them to teach my kids how to read, to write, to think, to process, to interact, to communicate, to process. And I just wish that I heard more about here's how we can move that 40 to a 50 or a 60.
Yeah, one of the more disappointing answers that I heard were sort of everybody's in the same boat. Other schools have similar proficiency rates. So,
it's true. It is true. And a couple of them said that and then went on to say, but we're still here to teach our kids. So I didn't hear anybody dismiss the question that way, but you're right. There was certainly some conversation about
I think what was missing was any kind of sense of urgency to change it, right? I didn't really hear an action plan to say, you know what, that's not acceptable. We got to be better.
You know what I loved about John Strand's performance in our Fargo City Commission debate? John and I don't see politics the same at all, but dang it, that guy cared. He brought his passion, and you could just hear it in his voice how much it mattered. And I just was left wanting a lot more of that from the people that I heard from tonight. And I don't know that I heard much of that from anybody tonight, where like, I wanted one of those pound the table moments. Like, we've got to get serious. And I don't care what it's about. I mean, if you're in favor of something that I personally don't agree with, pound the table for that. But just pound the table for something. And I don't know. I felt like we checked a lot of boxes tonight.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. Here's a couple of comments that are coming in, and others welcome, by the way. You can call us at 701-271-1100 if you want to rate the debate. You can also email us, studio@flagfamily.com. Studio@flagfamily.com. Paul has his head screwed on straight, said one listener. All right.
Paul Moore.
And I did think Paul gave really kind of sort of just common sense answers to a lot of the questions. Also has obviously spent some time. I appreciate candidates that are candidates for a position that don't go in cold without any knowledge of what's happening on the school board currently or anything else. And it's very clear that Paul Moore and others on there, Allie Ollenberger's another one, has spent time there.
Had done some homework.
Jason Nelson talked to teachers, getting the feedback of teachers. So I think that's great.
And Ryan Dodd, how many times did he say, I've been knocking doors and I've talked to a few teachers and they say this or they say that. He said that a number of times. I give him credit too for being prepared and having talked to a lot of people. One interesting part of this debate for me, Scott, and by the way, 701-271-1100, if you want to call in, let us know your thoughts. What did you like? What did you not like? What were you left wanting more of? The question about what should be expected from board members when responding to residents, I was listening for one thing, and that is, do we have a customer service mindset or do we have an entitlement mindset? And I did hear some things that I was disappointed in from a couple of the candidates tonight. One in particular, Nikkie Gullickson, who I thought handled herself well tonight. I think she's very articulate, very intelligent. She said, I think her quote was, if you are asking a question, well, we've probably asked that and answered that question many times before. It's not an easy format to have a back and forth. It's our board meeting. Look, I don't disagree with anything she's saying, but that's not a customer service answer.
No, it isn't. She actually said, this is our time for a meeting. Basically, right. Like, you taxpayers.
And I get what she's saying.
You're kind of a nuisance here.
Yeah, she's not wrong because it is. But still, it's like there's a way to give that answer where you say, hey, look, we do have to have some time to do the business that we have to do. But like the first thing and the last thing I want to hear to that question is, hey, the feedback, Matt, we're working for you. And, you are the ones who voted us in. And we are taking our families, their kids. And so parents, we need to have some accountability there too. I just would rather have it be said that first and last rather than it's our meeting. It's not an easy format to have back and forth. We do want to listen to people, but it's our board meeting. I just didn't think that was a customer service answer. And I wish, John Campbell said people deserve an answer.
Jason Nelson said more communication, need a better format. Allie Ollenberger said it's super intimidating. There ought to be a way for residents to have open dialogue. So
Ryan Dodd, we should listen and respond. So yeah. I heard some answers like that. I was just disappointed that I heard what I heard there. Just a little bit of a dismissive attitude on that question, I thought. Maybe I heard it differently than it was intended or than it was said, but that's what I heard there tonight.
Another comment from a listener by text. Finally, someone brought up that they are taxpayer-funded positions and they should be in town or local.
Oh, the cabinet level people. Yeah, this was a good question.
It was, and I was surprised with the amount of acceptance with, I think it sort of turned into a question about, do you accept remote work or not?
Yep.
And I think really the bigger question is, here's two top highly paid positions. And is it okay for these positions, given the importance of them, the pay scale, all of that, to be remote.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have liked to hear somebody say something like this, some version of, hey, we can have people work remote. It's not that you can't do your job from afar, but we need to have really good accountability when that happens. And do our administrators, do our people on the ground, can they get you at any moment if they need something? And is there going to be like regular communication, proactive between these people who are not there and people who are here? And let's find ways where we can have a channel of communication, regular updates and things like that. Now, maybe those things are going on. Now, I don't know, but I would have liked to hear somebody say, hey, look, this is a fair question. And it is fair to ask, are we getting the same kind of level of involvement when you're not here? So if we're going to do this and we find that the best person for the money is somebody who's in Timbuktu, how do we make that work? And I thought the answers we got tonight on that were kind of thin on, what we need to see. And I thought most of the candidates here said in some way or shape, we would like to have these people be here. So I did hear some of that too, but there was one, as Seth Holden said, he's a loyal deputy to Rupat Gandhi. You can see that from his answer. We have to be able to trust the superintendent. If student outcomes are increasing, it's not a problem. I think both things, that's certainly a true statement. If student outcomes are increasing, it's not a problem. But it's more than just student outcomes in a school as well. You've got to have harmony. You've got to have good communications, and they may not need to be there. But I thought you learned something about Seth Holden today, that he is going to be somebody who trusts the leadership of Dr. Gandhi in this area. And I think that's just notable there. Jason Nelson, our district, expects these people to be here. I thought that was a good way to answer that. Let's just go by what the people in the community want.
The other thing I appreciate what Jason Nelson said was recognizing the significance of these positions as top administrators. They should be in Fargo, is what he said. So
yeah, Krista Nelson said the same thing. What I wrote down from her quote: local presence matters when it comes to management. And when I hear that there are communication issues within our district, which we heard that a little bit tonight,
we did. Yep.
And we have leaders who are remote, that's a problem. Now, that's not a direct quote, that's a paraphrase, but I think we did hear a fair amount of people saying that when I talk to people in the community or people within the schools, they want those leaders to be here. And I thought Kristen did a really nice job tying that comment to, hey, okay, on one hand, if you're telling us there are communication issues and we have our leaders in Houston, there's maybe a better way to do it. I thought that was an effective tie-in for her.
Paul Moore really emphasized the fact that one of these positions is the HR position, and he used a personal example of it, having had a situation where an HR person worked for him remotely, and he ended up being the HR person. I mean, yeah. He obviously had a bad experience himself with that, but I think he also made it pretty clear with the amount of money being invested in those positions and the importance of them. He too thought, they ought to be here.
I heard Ryan Dodd say tonight, I think a couple of times, but for sure when we were asked about the teacher satisfaction survey, what I wrote down from his comments was that I'm hearing that some people are afraid to bring things forward for fear that there will be retribution and that they'll seem ungrateful. That's a bad culture piece to have. If you have people that are fearful for bringing forward honest comments and discussion because they think that people are going to call you ungrateful or there might be retribution, that's an issue to me. I would be interested to know if that is a widespread thing or if that's something that you might hear knocking doors from a couple of people. Do you remember hearing that, Scott?
Yeah, I do. I actually remember a pretty good theme of a concern from the teachers related to the administration. I mean,
that survey was part of that too.
Yeah, it was, and you're hearing that from a lot of the candidates who've had one-on-one conversations, obviously with teachers. There is an issue with teachers and their impressions of how they're being led. So I think that's something you lean into and listen to.
You wonder if that came up, Scott, during the conversations. I just saw tonight a note that Dr. Gandhi's contract has been extended for 2 more years at a meeting that happened very recently. Number one, I thought that was interesting that it happened before a school board election. I don't know that that's wrong or bad. I don't think there's anything sinister to that, but I think it's interesting. But second of all, how much conversation was there about that? Because I happen to have a job that's similar to what Gandhi has in the school district here at our building. And if people think that I'm afraid to bring things forward for retribution or they'll seem ungrateful, that's an issue that I should have to speak to and that I should be held accountable to. I wonder how much conversation there was about that, hey, we're hearing, 8 out of 10 people within or whatever the number is that say they get good response from what's happening within the building, but 6 out of 10 or whatever the number was aren't as convinced that they're getting great partnership from the district offices. That's a conversation that should be had if you're going to renew a contract. Maybe it happened. I don't know.
Yeah, good question. Certainly nothing very public about that being brought up. But
there wasn't. No. I just think that's when you talk about culture issues and how people are getting along and whatever, it does seem that there's enough here that there's maybe something to talk about. And we get it. I mean, in a large district, a large bunch of people, there are going to be people that are unhappy. If you go around our building, there's people that are unhappy with the leadership here too, I'm sure. It's just, is there enough there where you say, hey, let's have a conversation about how we can make this better?
10 Commandment question was interesting.
10 Commandment question was interesting.
Would you put them back in schools? And
it was a yes or no question.
And there was no and hard no.
Hell
and
no.
No.
We had a few of those.
Paul Moore said maybe if you make me answer in one question. But yeah, that was interesting to me as well.
Yeah, there was nobody.
What are they afraid of?
Nobody who deliberated on that as much as Paul did. Everybody else was pretty much a quick no to that. That's going to just depend on what your faith system looks like. Because if you are an evangelical Christian who wants to live that out in all parts of your life, then you're going to say absolutely. If you're anything other than that, you're going to say no. We are a school system. We're not here as a religious institution, and that doesn't belong in the school. I guess I'm not surprised to hear that. I would also say this, Scott. I would not be judgmental enough to say that the 8 that answered no flat out don't believe in God either. I think it's maybe more of a nuanced question. Even Paul had difficulty coming to maybe, so you could tell he was processing it too. That's a question. If you weren't expecting that question, that's a tough one to have to come up with an answer to if you're a person who has a faith element to your personality.
It's just disappointing to me that something as basic and simple as the 10 Commandments, think of them like sort of like the Golden Rule, somehow is not welcome in public education, right? I mean, it's not indoctrinating kids. It's not bringing religious education into the classroom. It's basically a historical document giving you some guideposts on what you believe.
But it carries more than that, though. It's more than that. It is.
Well, it's certainly been made to be more than that, which is one of the reasons that you have, I think, as many people saying, nope, down the road.
Did you come away feeling like evidence-based grading is a dumpster fire? Because the first 4 or 5 answers I heard, even Nikkie Gullickson, current board member, is like, the shift is to allow students to demonstrate what we can do. Teachers don't love it, but it's a national trend. So kind of a shrug of the shoulders. First of all, I never like saying, well, we have to do it because it's a national trend. And then I heard, some comments about people are saying that it's hard to know with 3 levels, how are they really doing? 1, 2, 3, there's not much room for nuance within 1, 2, and 3. And Ryan Dodd said, teachers are telling me that there's a use for A through F and there's a lack of integration between putting a grade down. Teachers have to figure out what 1 through 4 means. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
it's probably more organized than it felt, but tonight, not knowing anything about it, I came away feeling like, wow.
It was just a lot of scattered answers there, really, rather than any meat and potatoes on that question. Obviously not ready for it, for the most part. Even a few people saying, I just don't know enough about it, and I have to, if I got on the school board, learn more about it and understand it better.
Yes.
But I don't think the listener/voter came away with any kind of clear understanding of the opinions of most of the candidates on that one.
I thought if I'm looking at objectively what I want in a school board debate, I want to have conversation, like I said, about education. How are we testing? How are we performing? And then probably the second thing I want to hear about is how are we doing with our financial management? And so the question about the proposed long-range facilities plan was interesting there. Nikkie Gullickson said we have been a historically frugal people here with buildings. Because of that, we've got some things to take care of. I think that's a very fair statement. They have been frugal. There haven't been a lot of referendums here within this district. And because of that, yes, there's going to be a need. But I appreciated the people that at least took the time to say, hey, the cost of everything is so high right now, we have to be good stewards. Jason Nelson did a really good job of that. I thought Paul Moore did as well. And I thought Ali Ohlenberger had a good answer about, hey, some things need to be done. We've got schools without secure entrances, and there are 500 open work orders. Where have we been spending the money in the past years? I appreciate those answers because I think that that's something that if you just live in an echo chamber of public service, or you're within your own circle and you don't, and that's not a big deal to you, and you've not been talking to other people where inflation, real estate taxes, all that's a concern, it could be easy just not to get that in a real way. But I got a feeling that a handful of those candidates that I mentioned got that in a real way, that we got to be really smart and really tough on expenses right now. And I guess to the credit of the Fargo School District, I think that they have. There's not been a lot of votes and referendums coming our way recently. I think the last one was 2017.
Although I think you got a lot of sticker shock from long-range planning of $600 million, and that's been pared back to $300-some million.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of utopian. We're spending somebody else's money here, so let's roll. I agree with you. I thought the answers were pretty good from the majority of the folks talking about being careful, and being guarded there.
I want to someday have a discussion on the question about the LGBT thing and the trans kids. Kristen Nelson said today, one supportive adult can reduce the risk of suicide by 40%. And I've also heard other people say things like, if you allow students to manifest ideas that are not going to last long term, it can be more harmful in the end than having an intervention and have an honest talk about why do you feel the way that you do. So I'd like to hear more about that, because I feel that you can find statistics on both sides of that conversation. That's more of a matter of what your personal philosophy is on how to do that. I think to your point earlier, though, Scott, the discussion needs to involve the parents. And when you start saying, some kids might go home and get the crap beat out of them by their parents for
what percentage? What percentage do you think?
That's what I'm saying.
I think you're assuming a negative motive on a parent.
I agree.
And does it happen? Of course. But is that the norm, that they're going to go home and somehow be harmed because of that decision? Of course.
Yeah. All right, we're coming up on 8:57, and Addison, we're ticking down the final 25 seconds. Yeah, apologies to the individual who just called. I'm sorry our time is short here tonight, so we're not going to be able to get that call in. But Scott Hennen on the What's on Your Mind program tomorrow on the Flag. I'm on from 4 to 6 on Flag AM 1100. Would be glad to visit with you about any calls, comments, conversations you have then. But thank you for being with us here tonight for this debate. Have a great evening from everybody here at the Flag and WDAY.